From the home of the defending National League champions, Shea Stadium in New York, where they arrive by foot, by car, and by rail. It's the first matchup this season between National League Eastern Division rivals, the visiting Florida Marlins, and the defending National League champion, New York Mets. And welcome to Shea Stadium in New York. Matt Vasgersian along with you. The Florida Marlins and the New York Mets, Eastern Division rivals, matching up here today. And two teams that split their season series evenly, right down the middle, 6-6 last year. It's a good matchup on the field, and there are a lot of stories we'll be covering for you tonight as well. Included in the headlines, a changing of the guard in the Eastern Division. Everybody looking up at the surprising Phillies and Marlins at this point in the season. The Marlins like the young bunch of pitchers they've assembled, and unlike in seasons past, they think they can win now. As far as the Mets are concerned, one of the Japanese imports in the big leagues, Tsuyoshi Shinjo, has taken Broadway by storm. He's New York's latest hero. I welcome my broadcast partner, Jeff Torborg, to the telecast. And, Jeff, let's talk about this Tsuyoshi Shinjo character. He's making fans and believers out of everybody here at Shea.
Listen, he has been a spark plug for this ball club. Not only has he done it with the bat, he's been an outstanding defensive center fielder since Peyton went down. But the last 3 wins that the Mets have, Shinjo has driven in that run. Last night he had a 2-run homer against the Montreal Expos, and the reason for his exuberance is that he's the kind of guy that seems to love his teammates and they love him, and it's happening here in New York because this kid has made a difference.
Plus he's got the big sweet orange armbands.
Could they be any longer?
His fashion statements are hot too. We've got cameras all over this place. One of them is the fan cam. You're never safe at Shea Stadium. We're going to check in with the fan cam and see what we can find. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Shea Stadium in New York. Fox family visits the Eastern Division of the National League tonight. A tight division here in late May. Of course, the Mets were the preseason favorites, but the Marlins are coming on strong.
Boy, are they ever. The rest of the league is worrying about the Marlins. The good young pitching has surprised a lot of people. If this young team starts to get around to August and starts believing that they can win, they could be really tough.
As always on Fox Family, these Thursday telecasts, the Fam Cam is with us. We'll welcome Brian Leary to our broadcast team this week. Brian?
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Just making my way off the 7 train into Shea Stadium, and lucky for me, guess what? Woohoo! The fleet is in. Last time I rode that train, it was for the famous Subway Series. Then it was Yanks versus Mets. Today, it's the Marlins versus the Mets in the first of a 4-game series. And I've got Petty Officers Juan and Craig here with me today. Now, Juan, who are you rooting for?
I'm going to root for the Marlins.
Oh, who are you rooting for?
I'm going to root for the Mets.
Woohoo! Looks like me and Craig are going to have some fun tonight. Hey, I'm a New Yorker. What do you want? Back to you guys.
All right, Brian, we look forward to hearing from you throughout the game. Mets and Marlins, 8-time All-Star Mike Piazza, and another good catcher in 4-time Gold Glove winner Charles Johnson. Opening pitch next. Thursday Night Baseball on Fox Family is brought to you by Kingsford Charcoal, because taste is everything. By Toyota. More choices, better selection. Experience Toyota today. By Lotrimin AF, the #1 recommendation of doctors. And by Sears Craftsman Tools. Shea Stadium in New York opened April 17, 1964. It's been the home of the Metropolitans ever since. Welcome back to it. Let's check the Nissan starting lineups for the visiting Florida Marlins as per manager John Bowles. Switch hitting second baseman Louis Castillo off the top. John Mabry and Cliff Floyd, a couple of left-handed hitters, follow. Center fielder Preston Wilson, a 30-30 man last year, bats #4. Mike Lowell is back to active duty after a wrist injury. He's at third base batting #5. Catcher Charles Johnson backs in the 6th spot. Kevin Millar, Alex Gonzalez, and pitcher A.J. Burnett rounded out for the visiting Marlins. On the mound for the Mets, right-hander Kevin Appier.
Now, Kevin Appier is a big guy. He's been around a long time, but he's become an off-speed pitcher. Curveball and slider and the split finger are our best pitches. 2 types of fastballs he's got to set these other pitches up with, but he's a guy who's a warrior. He's been around, but his stuff is not exceptional.
Let's check the defense behind Kevin Appier tonight. Todd Zeile at first base for the Mets. Edgardo Alfonso won a Silver Slugger at second base last year. He's out there at second tonight. Robin Ventura is a 6-time Gold Glove Award winner at third. Ray Ordonez has 3 trophies at shortstop. In the outfield, left to right for the Mets, it's Benny Agbayani, Tsuyoshi Shinjo, and Darren Bragg. Mike Piazza does the catching as per usual. And once again, Kevin Appier on the mound for the Mets to make start number 10 on the season. Underway at Shea Stadium tonight. First pitch of the evening from Kevin Appier is laid down for a bunt. Castillo on his way to first, not in time. Ventura was right there to plate, and there's one gone for Appier.
Well, Kevin Appier, as we mentioned, is a breaking ball pitcher right now, but his command has not been where he wants it to be. When you see a record of 2-5 and the ERA is elevated at 5.62, there's really a reason. Part of it is he's given up many more hits than innings pitched. That is not good. And when you see what the opposition is hitting against him, 291, that is really tough. You're going to have a tough time when the opposition sees you that well.
Most recently, Appier was a 10-2 loser to Los Angeles. In fact, Kevin Appier is trying to win his first in his last 5 starts. He is 0-5 over his last 5 turns out there for Bobby Valentine. In his first year as a Met, signed a big 4-year deal over the offseason.
And the Dodgers went 6 for 10 in those at-bats. It means when the hitter's up in the count, they're that much better. Now, he's a veteran. Apier's a veteran. He just has not found his command. He's just walking too many guys and also getting behind in the count.
Misses wide to the left-handed hitter John Mabry, a ball and 2 strikes. John Mabry's bounced around a little bit. Formerly a top prospect with the St. Louis Cardinals, spent the majority of his big league career in St. Louis. Recently back off the DL for the Marlins. A big wave and a miss. Strikeout
by John Mabry, but it was only 87 miles per hour. Now I say only. I mean, remember, this is the big leagues, but he got under the ball, and the ball is above the strike zone, and left-handers have a terrible time getting on top of that pitch. Look where the pitch is. This is pitch tracks that shows you the grid where the strike zone is. Look how far out of the strike zone this pitch was. Apier's got a herky-jerky delivery. He sits on his back leg and almost throws uphill sometimes, and when he gets under a fastball like that, it kind of explodes.
Pitch Tracks is always brought to you by QuestTech.com. We'll be checking in with that fine piece of technology throughout the telecast tonight. Cliff Floyd.
Clifford Floyd, what a special-looking young player. Huge guy, 6'4", 250, can run. He's only 28 years of age. Had an excellent year last year, hitting 300. He's a very dangerous hitter.
Checks his swing and holds up. 1 ball and 1 strike to Cliff Floyd. Well, a guy whose home runs and damage have traditionally come in bunches. And he recently went on one of those tears, hitting 4 home runs over a 3-day period in the second week of May. And one misses down low, 2-1. The Marlin lineup is full of power and full of danger. And this is something that's no longer catching National League opponents by surprise, with guys like Floyd, Wilson, and Lowell bunched up in the middle, and one of the best table setters in the business, Luis Castillo. This team's going to score runs.
Well, as that ball is lined past the Met dugout, and of course that always worries you when a screamer goes into the fans like that. Somebody could really be hurt, and you can see Cliff Floyd looking in there concerned. The players, obviously the fan is very happy with that. He might not have been the first one that got hit with that ball. That's what you worry about. Somebody ducks aside and someone gets hit. But the hitters worry about it when they slam one in like that. As you can see Cliff Floyd look around to see how that ball went into the seats. Did it hit a fan? Did it hit a seat? But Clifford Floyd is a real tough out. And add Charles Johnson to this lineup.
3 balls and 2 strikes.
That pitch is very close, but you were talking about their lineup, and you can see some of the numbers here of the projected totals of what Cliff Floyd could do, and someday he will do that. But their lineup is stronger.
Little number out to the left side of the infield for Ventura. Throw to first in time, and it's a 1-2-3 start to the night by Kevin Appier. Half inning of baseball gone at Shea. Fish scoreless. Mets coming to bat. Well, an eventless start to the night turned in by Kevin Napier as he retires the Florida Marlins in order to begin his evening. Let's check the Nissan starting lineup for the homestanding New York Mets per Bobby Valentine. Darren Bragg, the leadoff man for the moment. He's in right field starting things for the Mets. Edgardo Alfonzo and Mike Piazza follow. It's Ventura, Shinjo, and Zeal 4 through 6. Benny Agbayani, Ray Ordonez, and Kevin Napier rounded out for the Mets tonight as they take swings against right-hander A.J. Burnett. And let's check the Sears Craftsman scouting report on the 24-year-old right-hander.
And he's a big one, 6'5", almost 230 pounds. You can see the stuff he has. A former Met, outstanding fastball, big breaking curveball. It's an index finger up curveball. His changeup's getting better and better, but boy, he makes right-handers quiver in the batter's box. He's so big.
The Marlins defense is among the best in all Major League Baseball. The Nissan defense check finds Kevin Millar at first base for Derek Lee tonight. More on that as we continue. Luis Castillo at second base. Mike Lowell back from injury. He's out there at third. Alex Gonzalez, the flashy shortstop, starting tonight is short. Outfield left to right is Cliff Floyd. Preston Wilson, with certainly ties to this franchise. John Mabry. Catching is Charles Johnson. And on the mound to make his fourth start of the year, big right-hander A.J. Burnett.
How about these numbers? 0.84 ERA. The opposition's only hit 159 against him, but what will surprise you, he's got more walks than strikeouts. He pitched a no-hitter just a couple weeks ago against San Diego with 9 walks in that game, but you don't see guys having good records when they have more walks than strikeouts. But look at the number of hits, very few hits. In 21 innings, only 11 hits. This guy is tough.
A.J. Burnett's making his first ever start against the New York Mets tonight. Same thing we can say for his opponent on the mound. Kevin Napier had never faced the Marlins before tonight. So it's a game of unknown commodities for both starters as you check the line, and an unusual line it was on that no-hitter against San Diego just a week or so ago. Darren Bragg, Edgardo Alfonzo, and Mike Piazza started for the Mets here in the bottom of the first. Into the corner in the opposite field. Exactly why they called Darren Bragg up from AAA Norfolk. The table is set in the Mets half of the first.
Well, Matty, it's interesting. Just on Saturday on the scouting reports, Darren Bragg struck out 3 times on high fastballs. They tried to run a fastball up and away from him, and Bragg did not try to pull the ball. He just served it out into left field, so there's not be a no-hitter tonight. But that's a nice piece of hitting.
Up from AAA on May 16th and already paying dividends for Bobby Valentine. The Mets have their leadoff hitter in scoring position now for Edgardo Alfonzo. He offers at the first pitch and bounces to short. Gonzalez tried to do a lot with it, and they end up getting Bragg anyway.
Well, this is a mistake. This should never happen. Darren Bragg is a real hard-nosed player. You're at second base. The ball has got to go through unless it hits to the right side of you. Look at Bragg. He's in no man's land, and even with a foul up at shortstop, they get him at third base, and he doesn't even stay in a rundown long enough to get the runner to second base. That is a double mistake by a veteran player. Darren Bragg is a very aggressive guy, and I think his aggressiveness caught him here. That is not smart baseball.
Well, A.J. Burnett's thrown 2 pitches. He's had 2 base runners. One of them's been cut down. Score to that is a fielder's choice play that puts Alfonso aboard safely for Mike Piazza.
Matt, I was watching Piazza in batting practice. He's changed his stance a little bit. He is bending at the knees a little bit more as he swings right through a good live fastball. 94 miles an hour on that fastball. But all good hitters make adjustments. Now, Mike has been struggling. He's been trying to carry this club on his shoulders, and he's been struggling. But watch him in batting practice. He squatted down a little bit, and he was hitting line drives all over the park. Now he's standing up a little more now, though.
That one fouled back, and it's 0-2 to Mike Piazza. Well, Piazza, like many of the Met hitters, really scuffling at the plate. You're talking about a guy with a .328 career average. The numbers way down this season for Mike, as they are for the rest of the run producers behind him. Guys like Robin Ventura, Todd Zeile, even Alfonso in the 2-hole struggling by his own standards. And Piazza's caught looking at a called strike 3. This is what we mean. The pace that Piazza's on this year is nothing close to the numbers he's accomplished in the past.
Well, watch this strikeout, Matt. It's a breaking ball. This is that curveball we're talking about. The index finger up curveball means he gets on top of the ball. And Mike is fooled by it because it looked like it was going to go a little too high and maybe toward the inside, and it broke back over the plate.
So Alfonso still aboard with 2 gone now for Robin Ventura. Boy, the Mets really aggressive against Burnett tonight. He taps out to first, and New York strands a base runner. 1 inning of baseball in the books at Shea. The Marlins and Mets scoreless. Well, contrasting experience levels as far as the major league manager's gig is concerned in the dugouts tonight. John Bull's in his 4th year managing with the Marlins, and Bobby Valentine's in his 14th season in the big leagues, his 6th with the Mets. Those 2 guys are going to be in a dogfight in the division all year long. We'll be privy to some of John Bull's secrets through his third base coach, Freddie Gonzalez, who has agreed to wear a microphone for us tonight, Jeff.
Freddie's a good man. I knew him when he was a catcher in the Yankee organization, and then he was with the Miami Marlins, Miami Miracle, back in his early years when he was first learning how to coach, and he even managed that, and he replaced Mike Easler, the hitting coach of the Cardinals, now as the manager. Freddie's been around, a very good baseball guy.
Marlins have their center fielder Preston Wilson leading off, middle third of the order against Kevin Appier, Wilson, Lowell, and Johnson. Preston Wilson's been going gangbusters this season. Despite the 0 for his last 15, he's still at .327, close to the club lead in that category. Charles Johnson batting a heavy .331 at the start of play tonight.
That's amazing. When you talk about players, you talk about tool players. 5 tool players. That's a guy who's able to run well, field well, hit for power, hit for average, and throw. This guy is a 5 tool player. And he was a #1 pick by the Mets, and of course his stepdad is the first base coach, Mookie Wilson, of the Mets. But Preston Wilson is a sensational athlete to watch him play. He strikes out a whole lot, but he's very exciting.
Yeah, Preston Wilson came very close last year to Bobby Bonds' 1970 strikeout record of 189. And there was nothing that Mookie could have done about that.
Yeah, he had 187. They took him out of the lineup so he didn't set the record. And that's a smart move. That's a move where you want to make, if you have a young team, you want to help them be successful. And that's where John Bowles is a developing type of manager. He's a guy who's been a farm director. He's been a minor league manager. He is a very quiet type of confident building type of manager. He's perfect for this young team.
2 balls and 2 strikes account to Preston Wilson, leading things off in the second, grounded right past the 6-time Gold Glove Award winner. See how that one scored for Preston Wilson, likely as a base hit.
Well, you know, the end of first inning, Robin Ventura went way over to field the ball in front of the shortstop. Now this ball that Preston Wilson hits, he hits hard, but watch how the ball stays down. It hit off the edge of Robin's glove. Now here's another angle. See, the ball's bouncing, but at the last minute it stayed down. Robin expected to bounce up a little bit, and on pitch tracks you can see where all the pitches were. And the last pitch was out over the plate. That's the yellow ball that Preston Wilson hooked in the hole at third base.
It is scored as a leadoff single for Preston Wilson. That snaps his 0 for 15 and sets the table for Mike Lowell, the third baseman. Lowell recently reintroduced to the lineup. In fact, he had a lot of time off during the week. An injury to the left wrist. Took a line drive on that left wrist, and it had him out of the lineup for a while. And despite the fact that Lowell's one of their more steady offensive contributors, the Marlins lineup didn't miss a beat. That's because they got a guy by the name of Kevin Millar, who's out there at first base tonight, who was going absolutely nuts and who filled in nicely for Lowell while he sat and rested that wrist. Jam that time, punches it out into right field, and that's going to drop behind Edgardo Alfonso. A base hit for Mike Lowell.
Well, Mike Lowell didn't exactly crush this ball, and at 6'4", 212, the defense has to play very deep, knowing he's got big-time power, and that's what happens as he's smiling. This ball is off his thumbs, and it goes, see how close to the handle of the bat it went, and it blooped into right field and just behind first base. A nice effort by Alfonso. Alfonso had to come out of the game here on Saturday because of a tenderness in his knee. Now we'll see how he responds after that. He had to slide in on that one, and the ball hit him in the leg. But that's where a big power hitter has advantage. You've got to play him deep in the outfield, so you fist a couple in just over the infield, you got a base hit.
So a 16-hop single for Preston Wilson, and then a bloop single for Mike Lowell. And the Marlins are in business here in the second inning. I'll bring up Charles Johnson, the Marlins leading hitter. That one ticketed for the gap in right center. Bragg and Shinjo are out there. It's going to split the both of them. Wilson and Lowell are going to score in lockstep. A 2-run double by Charles Johnson, and the Marlins take a 2-0 lead.
Well, Matty, we were talking about how different this Marlin lineup has looked in the middle of it, and the addition of Charles Johnson, who finished the year last year with the Chicago White Sox. This has made a difference. Watch how he hits this ball. It's a high hanger. He does not try to pull it. He drives it into right center field. And as you can see the ball go all the way to the wall. If you watch the base runners, it's interesting to watch because Mike Lowell is right behind Preston Wilson. If Preston weren't so fast, they would almost look like those little toys where the two guys walk one behind the other.
Looks like a baton race out there is what it looks like. 2 more runs batted in for Charles Johnson, a season total of 35 now. He's at second base. Still nobody out for Kevin Millar. As well as Johnson and Floyd and Castillo and company have been swinging the bat, this is the hottest hitter in the lineup and perhaps the most anonymous. Millar's hit in 8 in a row, and he's got the season average up over 300. That one's rolled out to third. Another chance for Ventura. He converts this time, and there's one gone.
Well, in a way, that's a wasted at bat, obviously, when it's an out. But if you have a big power hitter, you don't want to take the bat out of their hands. But when you have a runner at second and none out, you'd like to see the runner advanced if you possibly could. And you're not going to get that done hitting the ball to the left side of the infield unless you can get it through.
So Johnson still out there at second base, and that brings up the shortstop, Alex Gonzalez. Gonzalez just 5 for his last 43, as you see, and he has been something of an enigma offensively for the past couple of years. In 1999, Gonzalez hit .277, showed some pop, and was ticketed as a prospect and a comer at shortstop. Took a setback last year, hitting just .200. He's in front of Apier, a ball and no strikes. 2-0.
They were very disappointed in his play last year. They were raving a year ago about how great a player Alex Gonzalez was. Then he struggled last year, and he gave them some problems. They were not very happy with his work ethic, and part of the way his attitude was. Well, that's a young player who was frustrated. He thought he should have been better.
A lot of people close to the Marlins feel that one of the worst things to have happened to Alex Gonzalez early in his career is to have some long ball success. All of a sudden they had a guy who should be hitting line drives and ground balls, and he's swinging for the fences up there, and that was in part why the batting average dipped to .200 last season. He's in front 3-0. Pitch from Apier is right there for strike 1. 3 balls and a strike.
That's a good point, Matt. That you hate to see that with somebody who is not your typical 25 to 30 home run type of guy. Ray Ordonez still does that with the Mets. I mean, here's a guy who should be hitting the ball on the ground, hitting line drives, hitting behind the runner, and they have big swings. You're better off being a better hitter, hitting ground balls or line drives and making things happen. Control your bat more.
Now, I know you remember this trick, and I want to say it was sometime in the early 80s in St. Louis when Whitey Herzog was having that kind of problem with Ozzie Smith. And they said, for every fly ball you hit, Ozzie, this is Whitey talking, for every fly ball you hit, you give me $1. For every ground ball you hit, I give you $1. And at the end of the season, I think somebody won 10 or 12 bucks.
But he made the point.
He made the point.
Yes.
It wasn't about getting rich.
Yes.
Right?
It's about focusing on game situational hitting. That's what this game is all about. It's a game of teamwork. Even though it's an individual sport, one-on-one.
Couldn't hold up that time. The foul tip hung on to by Mike Piazza. Second strikeout of the night for Kevin Apier, and there are 2 gone.
The pitcher, number 43, A.J. Burnett.
Now, this is a pretty good pitch. This is up and in. This is a pitcher's pitch, and if you can't lay off it, you're going to have an awful time trying to hit it. See where it was cutting back toward him, and he got hung up, tried to pull his hands in. You can't do much about that pitch. But the point you were making, if you have a hitter who has a big swing to hit the ball out of the ballpark, now it makes big holes in your swing. Now you'll miss a lot of pitches instead of putting the ball in play.
2 gone for the pitcher. Now here's A.J. Burnett. Burnett's 1 for his first 7 at the plate this year. Again, this is a guy out there just making his 4th start of the season. Burnett opened the year on the disabled list with a foot injury. The Marlins think it was something that happened while he was working out on a treadmill in the offseason. Big wave and a miss.
This guy's a heck of an athlete, though. Did you see that swing? That's not your typical pitcher swing. This guy's a pretty good hitter. He's also a character. This is the guy with all the tattoos and rings on his body in places. He's a free spirit. But he's a heck of an athlete. He was known as a basketball player in high school. He was a well-known basketball player in Little Rock, Arkansas in high school. And, of course, the Mets thought enough of him to draft him.
There are a lot of players here. You talk about guys on the Marlins, and you can say the same of a couple of Mets with ties to their opponents tonight. And Burnett, probably the guy that stands out immediately, coming off the no-hitter 2 starts ago. He was acquired as part of the compensation package when the Marlins did the fire sale after the '97 World Series and shipped Al Leiter over here to New York. In exchange, Florida got a good crop of prospects for that man. And we're starting to see those guys now at the major league level. Apier's run at 3-1 to the pitcher. In fact, here's the deal. From the Marlins to the Mets, Dennis Cook, Al Leiter, Mike Piazza. These are separate deals. In fact, 6 of them since '94. A.J. Burnett and Preston Wilson are 2 of those then young Mets who are now starring roles for the Marlins. There's a strike to Burnett, 3-2.
Well, it's a difference in philosophy. The Mets were ready to win, and they needed the stars at the time to win. They got them, and it worked for them. The Marlins, when they, as you mentioned, you called it a fire sale, went out and got the best young prospects they could find around baseball for all their stars, and did a good job.
Payoff to Burnett, lined into right field. He can swing it a little bit. Darren Bragg coming on, goes into the tuck and roll and makes a fine catch to end the inning. That looked like trouble with a man at second. A great grab by Darren Bragg, and it limits the rally to 2. At the end of 1.5, 2-0 Marlins. Marlins on the field on our Thursday night baseball coverage on Fox Family. Let's find out what's happening in the stands and check in with Fam Cam and Brian Leary.
How you doing, you guys? You know what? A lot's happening here at Mets with the Mets in Shea Stadium. They're struggling a bit, but you know what? It's somebody's birthday. Whose birthday is it? What's your name?
Matthew Soren.
Now, Matt, how old are you? Like 35?
No, 10.
You're 10. Now, who's your favorite player?
Mike Piazza.
Oh, you know what? You look like Mike Piazza. He's really cute. Who's your favorite player?
My favorite player is Ken Griffey Jr.
Okay, and what about yours?
Mike Piazza.
Woo! Now, what if I were to tell you, wait, he's got the Mets parents back here, so you brought all the kids for a big birthday party, huh?
Yes, we did.
This is fantastic. Hey, Matt, what if I told you that you could be Mike Piazza for a day? What would you say?
Oh, my God.
That would be so incredible, wouldn't it? Okay,
Yep.
I'm going to do a little Mets magic here on the Fox Fam Cam, and when we come back, you guys, we might just have a little miniature Mike Piazza. Back to you in the booth.
All right, thanks, Brian. Yeah, Mike Piazza. I think that's what he called the guy, right? Mike Piazza? It's one of the extras from the Sopranos. There's Brad Penny. Speaking of birthdays, he turns a healthy 23 today and actually was supposed to be the starting pitcher in this game until the Marlins got rained out last night in Atlanta.
sure he's not a football player? Look at the size of that neck. Boy, they've got some good-looking young arms, boy. And big and strong. Look at these ages. All hard throwers. They just got Matt Clement this year from San Diego. Chuck Smith's the only one who's not the real young guy in the crowd. But he pitches like a young guy. Yeah. He really with great emotion.
Chucky Smith is the long beard at 31. That's a good young group. Tsuyoshi Shinjo leads things off here in the second and bounces out to Louis Castillo for the first out of the inning.
First baseman.
Well, the Mets are jumping on every first pitch they can. And people will say, why would you do that with a pitcher that walked 9 guys in a no-hitter? One of the things you do not want to do when certain pitchers have real good stuff, don't get behind in the count when they have a good put-away pitch. And Burnett has that real good downer curveball that you saw that Mike Piazza took that really fooled him. And he's really tough on right-handers. So the right-handers are jumping on every first pitch they see that's straight.
Here's Todd Zeile now with 1 gone. Well, to back up what you're talking about, 3 of the first 6 Met hitters have offered at the first pitch tonight. Zeile chose to lay off. Working 0-1. Now he's behind 0-2. That's what you get, I guess, huh?
Well, Todd Zeile is one of those guys that takes a lot of pitches. I believe last year he took the most pitches, at least on the Mets ball club, but he is really struggling. His slugging percentage is just about where his on-base percentage is, and when you're down at like 326 on on-base percentage, your slugging percentage is 333. That is not good, especially not for a guy who's expected to be a power hitter in the middle of the lineup.
22 home runs last year, sitting on 1 home run this season, and he's caught looking at a cold strike 3. Let's go back to Brian Leary, who has an update on the Mike Piazza fans.
I think a little hormonal thing happened here. Check it out. That's the Mike Piazza group. Woohoo! No. Look, they may be going on the field later if the Mets don't start doing better. Woohoo! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
Let's go Mets!
All right.
Let's go Mets!
Were those guys doing a Mike Piazza impersonation, or was it Kmart the discount magician? Benny Agbayani now with 2 gone.
One of those kids was the one, he looked like Piazza, but he liked Ken Griffey Jr.
Right. Well, you know, you wave a magic marker in front of a kid, he'll change his allegiances like that. Agbayani at 289. Ironically, where he finished the season last year. He's one of those Mets that's been hitting, but he's also one of those Mets that hasn't been in the lineup every night due to an assortment of health issues. The outfield in particular for Bobby Valentine has really been banged up to start the season, and while nobody here in New York is going to use that as an excuse, it is a reality as to why some of these hitters aren't producing at this point.
It really is, and of course one of the concerns the Mets had going into the season at their wing outfielders, as Benny swings at one up in the strike zone. This is another scouting report you're probably seeing. If you have been watching the Mets lately, a lot of the opposition are pitching Agbayani up around the hands, up around the letters, and he's been missing them. But the Mets wing outfielders have not hit with great power.
How about a nice punch in the mouth? 31 home runs since coming up with the Mets in the '98 season. Last year was his first full-time season as a Met left fielder. He's being counted on for more this season, with some notable departures over the winter.
Well, no, the problem that you have is that Benny's been popular and a big hitter. I mean, he has really come up with big hits, but he had 15 home runs last year. You think a wing outfielder, especially a left fielder, you would expect a little bit more, or you look for a little bit more. Timo Perez, who is on the other side now with Sinjo and Darren Bragg, are not really what you think of power hitters, even though Sinjo was playing center today, but is a kind of guy that's added it. Peyton is in the lineup. Peyton will play center. Sinjo hit 28 home runs last year in Japan, but you don't know if that's the kind of, whoa. Well, there's one that you were getting up in the strike zone.
That's a little of the Nuke Lelouch in A.J. Burnett right there. Effectively wild, I think is what the baseball people call it. Heads up. See if Agbayani thinks twice about digging in. Burnett comes into the same spot and loses him on ball 4. Well, when he threw the no-hitter a couple of weeks ago, he walked 9. One of the highest walk totals in Major League history, accompanying a no-hitter. We check our Toyota League leaderboard. Walks in the National League. In fact, walks in the big leagues. Fish are all by themselves with 187 of them.
Well, sometimes when you walk people, especially if it's a guy that's got pop in the bat and you're down the end of the order and you know it's going to take 2 or 3 hits to score a run, is strategy.
Ray Ordonez offers at the first pitch. He bounces to shortstop. Gonzalez does it himself by forcing Agbayani. And Burnett strands another base runner in the second. To the third, Marlins on top 2-zip.
Lucky winner. This lucky fan has just won
2-0 Florida as we go to the top of the third inning. We talked to Mike Piazza earlier. This is a guy that does more than just baseball. He's got other interests in his life as well.
I love music. I would have loved to have maybe pursued a career in music, not necessarily as a musician, but maybe in record company or something like that. My father was in the car business. I love cars. Maybe I would have been drawn to that. Maybe I would have tried some broadcasting, sports broadcasting. I don't know. Maybe law school. I liked school.
Not a chance he goes to law school. That's my handicapping. I think that middle nugget says it all. He played drums with Motorhead and Anthrax. This boy rocks people. It's not a guy listening to contemporary soft hits. Back to work in the top half of the third, top of the order for Luis Castillo. He played drums with Motorhead. It's rough. Trust me. Castillo bounced out to third in his first at-bat tonight.
You know, it's interesting to see a guy that has varied interests, though. He's a very bright guy. Piazza thinks and reads, does a lot of reading, and he's interested in a lot of different things. And of course, if he wants to go to law school, he probably could buy one.
1 ball and 2 strikes on Luis Castillo, and still won't give up the gear. There's been talk surrounding Mike Piazza for years about a position change. He just won't do it. 2-2.
You know what? He loves to catch. A lot of people have said, well, the reason he's catching all these games is because he knows what an offensive player is, and he wants to make a mark as a catcher that maybe no catcher has ever done offensively. He loves to catch. He calls a great game. He works hard behind the plate.
Castillo slashes one to second. His second base counterpart Edgardo Alfonso takes care of him, and there's one gone.
right fielder, number 47, Tom Mabry.
You know, it's very interesting. When you find a guy who enjoys getting beaten up behind the plate, remember Mike Piazza is a great big guy. The bigger the catcher, the more foul tips you get. The bigger you are, the more bending you have to do, and it affects the knees more. This guy, by the end of the season, can barely move around, and yet he's such a warrior. Piazza really is underrated behind the plate. A lot of people say, well, he doesn't throw that well. He has the arm strength. It's more mechanics.
There's John Mabry now trying to hold off on that big high fastball. A swing and a miss. Well, the Dodgers started to talk about that position change stuff before the trade that sent him to the Marlins in '98. The Marlins didn't have time to talk about the position change because he was only there for 10 days. But that talk certainly followed him around to New York. And again, as you mentioned, he just won't give it up because he loves doing it.
Well, you know why teams want to put him out there. They figure they want to rest him and that he's strong. They want him offensively. Remember some of the great catchers in the game. Johnny Bench went out and played other positions, third base in the outfield. Joe Torre moved from behind the plate to third base. And you'd say, well, you can rest your guy. You don't want to bang him up any, but he does a heck of a job back there. Here's another guy, Todd Zeile did. Todd Zeile started out as a catcher for the Cardinals and was a good catcher, and they moved him to third base. I like to watch Piazza work a pitching staff. I really do. He's really into it.
Ball and 2 strikes. Apier out of the windup with the bases empty. Got him. Third strikeout for Kevin Apier tonight.
Left fielder, number 30, Cliff Floyd.
Hey, this Memorial Day, Fox Family presents the Bee Gees in concert, performing all their hits, even the pre-disco stuff. The Bee Gees in concert. Gotta Get a Message to You this Monday at 8, 7 Central on Fox Family. Two gone for Cliff Floyd. Well, so far, the top of the order has given Kevin Apier no problems. Floyd bounced out in the first inning, offers at the first pitch, and hits a sinking liner out to left that drops in front of Benny Agbayani. A 2-out single for Cliff Floyd.
Well, Matty, we were talking before about what happens when outfielders look at a hitter who's 6'4", nearly 250 pounds. You've got to honor their power, so you play deep. And then the big guy hits one like that underneath, and it just flips into left field. Watch how he kind of squats down to hit the ball. Boy, he's got a nice looking swing, doesn't he? Head right down his arm, didn't pull off the ball. He can run, too. That's the other thing.
5 stolen bases for Cliff Floyd, along with the team high 13 home runs, and he's on for Preston Wilson. Speaking of power and speed, Major League's only 30-30 man last year. 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases for Preston Wilson. There goes Floyd, speaking of running, and he steals it without a problem. That one was stolen against Kevin Apier.
Good call, Matty. Exactly. He had 3 or 4 steps before Apier even got moving toward home plate. They didn't even bother to throw over. Normally when you get a runner on who's got some potential, and remember Floyd stole 24 bases last year, you can't fall asleep. You got to get the ball over there. Mike Piazza stayed with it, got the ball off quickly, made an accurate throw, but what can you do? You can't do much on that, but you cannot let a guy get a running start like that.
Now a runner in scoring position for Preston Wilson.
On Saturday, when the Dodgers faced Apier, they ran every chance they got, and a couple times it was on the first pitch and he didn't throw over. You know, teams send advanced scouts ahead to watch out teams that they're going to play in the next series to see how they play, and they see tendencies. So the advanced scout for the Marlins obviously saw what the Dodgers did.
A ball and 2 strikes on Preston Wilson now. .267 hitter with runners in scoring position. That's the kind of situation he's faced with here with Floyd at second and 2 away. Broke his 0 for 15 with a second inning single and ended up scoring in front of Johnson's 2-run double. That explains the 2-0 lead for the Marlins, and now it's 2-2. You know, you talked about Preston Wilson having ties to this Met franchise. A former #1 draft selection by the Mets. You talked about his stepfather, Mookie Wilson. His godfather is another very popular former Met, George Foster. I mean, you slice it up and down, and he's got Met connections all over the family tree. Caught looking this time. How about 4 punch-outs for Kevin Apier? He sends the Marlins down without damage in the third. 2.5 gone. Still 2-0 Florida. On Fox Family is brought to you by Acura and by American General Financial, helping over 12 million people live the life they've imagined. Live the life you've imagined. Unseasonably cool near LaGuardia here at Shea Stadium in New York tonight. Matt Vasgersian and Jeff Torborg, along with Brian Leary, welcoming you back to the ballpark. We go to the bottom of the third, 2-0 Florida. That wind blowing in, and it's been known to swirl here at this ballpark. It could be blowing in now, but check in with us in a half inning or so.
Matty, years ago when the Jets played here, I used to come out and walk the field with the ground crew, and that was Joe Namath's Jets. And you talk about cold here in the fall, in the wintertime.
Kevin Apier leads things off in the home half of the third. Apier's followed by the top of the order, Bragg and Alfonso. Kevin Apier dealing with the cold, among other things, in his first year as a New York Met. The majority of his career in Kansas City, the past year and a half in Oakland, and that means all of his career not only in the American League but in smaller American League markets. Talk about getting thrown into the fishbowl. Hello, welcome to New York. You better win 15 games.
They're not too tough here. When I managed, they only serenaded me, Jeff must go, for only a couple months. I used to go out to the mound and they'd start to sing to me. Of course, we had 3 or 4 other Jeffs on the teams. I tried to shift the blame, but it didn't work.
Well, it could have been worse, right? It could have been Philly, where they'd have booed you if you dressed up like Santa Claus. and thrown a battery or two at you at the same time. 2-2 to Apier is lined up the middle, a base hit. There's nothing to this hitting in the National League for pitchers.
Number 56, Darren Bragg.
Next Thursday, the Boston Red Sox head north of the border to take on the Toronto Blue Jays. Thursday night baseball on Fox Family. It all begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific.
Well, Apier's out there like he does this all the time. That's only his second career hit. Now 2 for 17, as you said. He was in the American League most of his career.
A very conservative lead from first, as one could imagine. Here's Darren Bragg now with the leadoff hitter award for the Mets for the second time in the 3 innings they've opened tonight.
Well, if you take a look at the Marlins defense, you also know that John Bowles doesn't think Apier's going to run. He's playing the first baseman off the base with a left-handed hitter up. Millar is playing behind him, and then he'll back up. He'll pat the glove a little bit to let Apier think he's right there.
A strike to Bragg, 1-1.
That's a little trick that a catcher will do too. A catcher will slide up underneath the hitter and pat the glove up under his ear and then slide away. And the hitter can hear it thinking, oh man, they're coming inside. Well, infielders will do the same thing. Pat the glove to make it sound like they're right behind him.
Two balls and a strike to Darren Bragg now. Bragg doubled to start the bottom of the first, and then was caught in no man's land between second and third on Alfonso's ground ball. You know, Darren Bragg really had to wait patiently. We mentioned how he started the season in AAA Norfolk. He had to wait patiently while other outfielders were called up to the big league club. Other outfielders and position players. Alex Escobar, Mark Johnson. A couple of guys got auditions before the veteran Bragg, and his patience has paid a dividend for him. He's now the leadoff job for the moment, at least until Jay Payton can get back off that hamstring injury.
Well, Timo Perez, who does such a great job for them in the playoff last year, has had a tender leg, so they're trying to let that heal as well. You know, he's a guy that makes this club go by getting on. Remember what he did in the postseason? He was terrific.
3-1 pitch to Bragg. It's bounced through the hole on the right side. Apier cautiously creeps into second. Well, no hitter tonight for A.J. Burnett, but a couple of weeks ago in San Diego, it was a different story. Effectively wild, we talked about it earlier. No hits. There was plenty of action, however, and every time you see the no-hitter, it takes good defense behind you, too, particularly up the middle by Alex Gonzalez and Luis Castillo. Burnett would finish it off, pitching the third franchise no-hitter for the Florida Marlins, and there was a lot of love on May 12th in San Diego.
Well, you got to be lucky to pitch a no-hitter, and as you say, you have to have a lot of defense behind you, but especially if you walk 9 guys and there's somebody on all the time.
A snap throw down to second. Apier almost strayed too far from the bag.
Well, remember, he hasn't been on there too many times. He's only had 2 hits in his career, and you watch out, Charles Johnson can throw. And this was a fake bunt, and for a runner at second on a fake bunt, he got hung out, and look at Charles Johnson. The throw tailed a little. If that throw was on the shortstop side, they've got him. That is a tough read for a base runner.
Nothing in 1 pitch to Alfonso, hit well to left. Clifford Floyd back, and it's over his head. They're going to wave Kevin Apier around to score. Here comes Darren Bragg, and the Mets have tied it at 2.
The catcher, number 31, Mike Piazza.
Well, Matt, Alfonso is one fine player. He's been struggling this year, but he got a hanging breaking ball right there and drove it in the alley in left field. He has started to get hot. Now, you'll take a look at the pitch tracks and see where that hanger comes right down the middle. That's almost like putting it on a tee. A hanger is normally a breaking ball that's just spinning in the middle of the plate, and that one was.
Here's Piazza now after Alfonso's double ties it up. Alfonso in scoring position for Big Mike. The 8-time All-Star was caught looking at strikes in the first inning tonight. A little electricity here at Shea Stadium for the first time tonight as Piazza sends one deep to center. Preston Wilson back just shy of the track, makes the catch. On another night, that one might be gone. Instead, it's a long fly out that advances Alfonso to third.
Robin Ventura.
Matty, you're right. That wind is blowing a gale straight in, and that ball was crushed. Mike Piazza crushed that ball, and it just didn't go. You can see Preston Wilson himself looking up at that flag. He's on his horse thinking that that thing is going to be over the fence, and he's going to have to make a leap, and it dies right at the warning track.
Left-handed hitter Ventura now, and a good block by Charles Johnson. A runner at third, only one away.
Well, you just called it. There is a play that goes unnoticed so often. That can be an RBI for the catcher. If Charles Johnson doesn't block that ball in the dirt, it'll get right by him and the run scores.
Hit on the ground is second. That's good enough to plate the run. Credit Ventura with his 20th RBI of the year, and the Mets have taken a 3-2 lead.
The center fielder, number 5, Yoshi Shinjo.
Well, you might ask, why are they playing back and giving the run here? It's early in the game. Now you see the ball hit. They're giving the run. You see a good break from third base by Alfonso, but they're giving the run. When I say they're giving the run, they're playing the infield back in the middle. They're saying it's too early to play in and cause maybe a big inning. So John Bowles played it back.
Here's Shinjo now with 1 out, 3 runs in. Shinjo bounced to second in his first plate appearance tonight. Well, you know, we referenced his wristbands when we went on the air tonight, Jeff, and it almost looks like a leg warmer he's wearing on his below the elbow. Those are the biggest wristbands I've ever seen in my life. Look at that.
Dusty Baker loves wristbands. He's liable to get a couple of those. Look at the size of those things. You don't have to wear undershirts. Just wear wristbands. Slide them up under your shirt.
Well, Shinjo has really become quite the popular figure here at Shea Stadium and in all of New York for that matter. And had it not been for the outstanding season that Ichiro Suzuki's putting up in Seattle, this would be the Japanese import that everybody's buzzing about. Instead, you got a guy who's en route to a batting title in Seattle. And as a result, Shinjo's exploits have gone unnoticed by comparison.
You know, Matt, I went to Japan with the Dodgers in 1966 after the World Series, and we ran across some great players at the time. Sadaharu Oh, and a lot of people say, well, these guys wouldn't be stars in the U.S. Well, they would have.
That one's popped into left. Cliff Floyd drifting in for it. Boy, the wind caught that one and almost pushed it to shortstop. That retires the side. 3 in the Mets third. They've taken a 1-run lead as we head to the 4th. Top of the 4th inning here at Shea Stadium. Let's see what's happening with FamCam and throw it down to Brian.
Well, this is a very happy FamCam because the Mets have come back. I'm with Steve, a very happy fan.
How are you?
Now, Steve, you've been here at Shea Stadium for how many years?
Well, since I was born. I was brought here as a baby by my grandfather.
Oh, must have been a painful birth.
Well, in those days it kind of was. I was born in 1963 and 64. I was here the first year as a 1-year-old, and as Jeff will remember, coming here, visiting here, it wasn't too pleasant in those days.
Well, now, Jeff was a catcher. Is there any way, can you compare him to Piazza?
Well, Piazza can't hit like Jeff could.
Yeah?
Well, Jeff, is Piazza being behind the plate, is it taking its toll on the hitting this year? You think that's a problem?
No, I don't think so. I think he's trying to carry the club a little bit. You know, he's such a big hitter, and I think he's a real good catcher, but I appreciate your comments. You must have forgotten how I hit.
Oh, I have one of your baseball cards.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think I got it for a nickel on eBay.
That's better. I had to pay for mine.
Yeah.
So, any advice that you got for the Mets tonight, Steve?
Well, I think if the wind blows out, then Piazza could have got us another 2.
I agree. We got a good fan.
Is this Steve's hot dog, but he was so busy sucking up to Jeff that, you know,
Well,
I thought I'd eat it.
Burnett has given up 2 runs in 3 games before tonight, so we've already got 2 off him. Let's hope we keep it going.
All right, Steve, that's enough of you. We got a play-by-play guy up here. Shut it down, dude. Shut it down, Steve.
I've been watching a long time. Let's just hope the Mets turn it around.
It was a painful birth, but worth it. Back to you guys.
Good night, guys.
Can't believe you let him dog you like that about the nickel card on eBay.
Yeah, it's all right. He said I was a better hitter than Piazza.
Right, okay, he made up for it. There's one gone for Kevin Apier here in the 4th, and now it's Charles Johnson. Johnson struck for the big 2-run double in the 2nd. That gave the Mets, rather gave the Marlins their 2-0 lead in the 2nd inning. Mets have since come back. 3 in the 3rd, and New York leads it by a run. Here we are in the top of the 4th. Now, we've talked a lot, Jeff, about A.J. Burnett and his throwing the no-hitter on May 12th in San Diego. The 3rd franchise no-hitter. There's a parallel there for all of them, whether you're talking about Leiter, whether you're talking about Kevin Brown or A.J. Burnett. All 3 of them caught by this man, Charles Johnson.
Absolutely. I really believe this, and I know it's a little prejudice from an old catcher. I really believe the catcher has a lot to do with a no-hitter, at least in crucial situations, keeping the pitcher going. Now, obviously, when you're catching people like I did, like Sandy Koufax, I didn't have to help him. It didn't matter what I put down. But when you take a young pitcher, such as Charles Johnson brought Burnett along, I'm telling you, the catcher has a lot to do with that, with a young pitcher.
Well, we know that you know what you're talking about, because Charles Johnson, like Jeff Torborg, that went line foul. You guys are in a very tight group of well, very good company. How about that? You know, no-nos. These gentlemen all caught 3 no-hitters, and one of them sitting to my right.
Well, I like this one down the bottom right here. But I probably played the fewest games of all these guys, too. All these guys were very much everyday players. Yogi Berra and Roy Campanella, of course, won 3 MVP awards. But it was, I was very fortunate to be around very good pitching staffs.
Johnson's jammed that time, and he pops it up. Zeal chases, but it's into the stands.
What was so interesting for me was my first no-hitter was Sandy Koufax's perfect game. Now, Todd Zeal just chased over after that. September 9th, 1965 was when Sandy pitched the perfect game. That's when Todd Zeal was born, that night.
How does that make you feel? Have you thought about that?
Very old.
I didn't want to restate it. Here's a 1-2. In your own words, that was. And Johnson went around.
First baseman, number 15, Kevin Millar.
We mentioned in the beginning of the game that Apier has real good breaking stuff, and look at this. That's that off-speed pitch. The bottom falls out of it. That's either a curveball or a split finger. And Charles Johnson could not hold up on it. Good call by the umpire at first base.
That's 5 strikeouts for Kevin Apier now. Check that note. Mets, 0 career no-hitters. 2 gone in the 4th. Here's Kevin Millar. This is a team that's in its 40th season. And we're talking about the Florida Marlins already celebrating 3 of them. They only came around in 1993. The Mets are still waiting for their first.
Yeah, guys who pitched no-hitters after they left here are the ones that are legendary. Tom Seaver pitched a no-hitter after he left and went to Cincinnati. And of course Burnett, we're talking so much about him. Some of these guys came close. Remember, there were some great pitching staffs here. Nolan Ryan. How about Nolan Ryan leaves here and has 7?
Yeah.
After that, Tom Seaver's number retired on the left field wall. Dwight Gooden and David Cone had to leave here and go to the Yankees to do it.
Right.
Coney's was a perfect game. Mike Scott left here and went to Houston and pitched a no-hitter for Houston to clinch in 1986.
1 ball and 1 strike to count to Kevin Millar, batting with the bases empty and 2 away. Swing and a miss, 1-2. Millar looking to extend an 8-game hitting streak. One of the unsung heroes on this team, and it looks like he's borrowing Craig Biggio's helmet tonight. Or was that Ozzie Guillen's? Take a look, a called strike 3. Kevin Apier's lost 5 straight, but he's money tonight, having struck out 6 through 4 innings. from Shea Stadium in New York. The Mets and Marlins in action tonight on Fox Family Thursday Night Baseball, and a good one on the field. 3-2 in favor of the Mets, trying to string something together here in mid-May and get back to near the top of the division, more familiar territory for them. Todd Zeile leads off the bottom of the fourth. What does Todd Zeile do with a day off? We asked him about that earlier tonight.
You know, perfect for me would be able to enjoy some of the things that New York has to offer. There's a couple of perfect scenarios for me. I'd love to take my kids back to the Bronx Zoo. We had a great time. That was a great experience for the kids, and something that I would love to do again. And that was, you know, what I think was a really satisfactory, well-spent off day.
Yeah, I think as a Major League Baseball player, if you can't find something to do on a day off in New York, you got problems. A lot of choices down here in this city. Many people did not know that Todd Zeile, in fact, is a descendant of John and John Quincy Adams. He was one of many players to appear on Saturday Night Live in the same sketch a couple of years ago. His wife, Julianne, gold medalist in the 1984 Olympic Games as a gymnast in Los Angeles.
But the genes in those children, it's like Don Drysdale and Annie Drysdale. Wow.
Those are kids that likely won't end up behind a desk typing on a keyboard, is what you're saying, right?
Possibly.
Strap on the gear. That one misses inside to Todd Zeile. Count is 3 balls and a strike.
You know, you talk about finding something to do on an off day. There's so few off days for ball players in the season. You just look for them and just prize them.
Zeile down the line, hooking, foul.
You know, Todd Zeile has an interesting way of hitting. He doesn't look like he's ready. He stands straight upright, and he holds his hands, just holds the bat vertical with his hands close to him. He doesn't look ready. But the pitch he likes the best is on the inner part of the plate, and he just turns on it like that one. But look how he just stands up there. Just taps it on his shoulder. You know, some guys get into these contorted looking stances. He really surprised you. The first time I saw him when I came to manage in this league, I said, I don't think he's ready. We can beat him inside. Well, I was wrong, because he handles that ball inside very well.
It's really hard to understand how a guy can generate power from that stance. And, you know, there are guys that have hit like that recently. I think Ed Sprague, who just got called back up with Seattle, he's got that similar style. Mickey Tettleton, the switch hitting catcher, had that bat sitting there on his shoulder. Zeile makes it work, however.
Yeah, he does. And it, you know, everybody has a little different trigger. Some guys, it comes down to technique and style. The style might be a little bit different. Years ago, Jerry Grody, a catcher here with the Mets, one of the best they've ever had, started to hit with his hands in this position.
Ball 4 to Zeile. He takes the pass here to start the bottom of the fourth. He has passed through a lot of teams in his big league career. In fact, since '95, and Zeile began his career in '89, he's been a Cardinal, a Cub, a Philly, an Oriole, a Dodger, a Marlin, a Ranger, and as of last year, a New York Met. It's a lot of luggage tags in 5+ years. Zeile's aboard to start the fourth inning. Second straight inning. The Mets have put their leadoff hitter aboard. Now it's Agbayani who takes a strike.
Matt, we were just talking about how Todd Zeile was so quiet as a hitter. Now you take a look at Agbayani. Agbayani lifts his leg, gets his hands wrapped. He's so different as a hitter. This takes an awful lot of timing in order to get the leg up in time and have it down in time to swing. So, you know, when there's no one way to hit, and that's the great part about this game. Everybody will try what seems to work for them, or what they feel comfortable in, or what they can do to see the ball best. That's where this open stance you see of the 90s.
Burnett working 0-2 to Benny Agbayani. That's a fun style to watch, just from a personal standpoint. When a guy can make that work, and you can think of numerous examples. I think of Julio Franco with that big, that active right foot. Ruben Sierra used that for quite a while in his hitting style. Agbayani, among others. Oh, take a look. Fastball right down Main Street. Agbayani was fooling. And there's one gone.
You know, when I first went to Japan, with the Dodgers in '66, a lot of their hitters lifted their legs like that, and not too many in the U.S. did. Now here's the pitch. You can see that ball comes back on the plate. That started on the outer half and came back. Take a look at this pitch by pitch tracks, or sequence of pitches, I should say. Starting away, I should say starting in and then going away. That ball started away and tailed back on the plate.
Pitch tracks provided by QuestTech.com.
But where I was going with what I was saying was you did not see a lot of hitters in the 60s and 70s lift their front leg like that. Mel Ott back with the Giants back in the 30s and 40s did, but the Japanese did a lot of this. You'll watch Shinjo when he comes up, he lifts his leg like this, and that's the way Sadaharu O used to hit with 800 plus home runs. But more and more you see hitting styles and fads are cyclical. Where you see somebody get successful with lifting the leg, you'll see more people do it. You see somebody get with an open stance like Andres Galarraga. Now you see more people do it.
Or you watch a guy like Cal Ripken, who seems to have a different stance for every at-bat.
Yeah, that's right.
He's picked that foot up and put it down a couple of times, and then he moves on to something else.
Well, he's in a crouch now. He stood straight up with the bat on his shoulder. He's laid the bat back toward the catcher. He's the first to admit, he says, I'm a man of 1,000 stances. But it certainly has worked, and that's what this game is, a game of adjustments.
That one misses high to Ray Ordonez. Count 2 balls and a strike.
Ordonez, for an example, has tried a new stance. He's standing straight up. He used to crouch a little, spread out a little bit. Now he's standing straight up and trying to react at the last minute. He still has a very big swing for a little guy. And the Mets would love to see him put the ball in play more.
Only 41 games for Ray Ordonez last year, as he suffered the broken arm and went through the subsequent rehab and was lost for the season. Mike Bordick and others filled in able-bodied for Ray Ordonez in his absence. Hit just 188 last year before he went down, and since he only played in 41 games, never really had a chance to turn it around offensively. Fouled into the corner, and that makes it 3-2.
Well, if you have a hitter like Ray Ordonez, this guy's a magician with a glove. He's just a tremendous defensive player, but his swing is awfully big. As a manager, you'd like to see a guy like this handle the bat better so that you could hit and run with him or put a runner in motion or do different things with him. But his swing is so big that he misses pitches and he'll get a runner thrown out. And normally at the bottom of your order in front of him, you don't have the Blazers.
He's got the pitcher on deck behind him here with a man on and one away. Burnett out of the stretch at 3-2 home to Ordonez. Kicks off the mound right to Castillo. He'll do it himself. They double off Ordonez, and despite the leadoff walk, Burnett gets through the Mets in order in the 4th. Marlins are awfully good up the middle. The double play makes for an easy 4th inning to the 5th. Still 3-2 New York. That's still on top as we go to the top of the 5th inning at Shea tonight. 3-2 New York under the lights at Shea Stadium. And as we check our American General Financial this date in baseball history fact, May 24th, 1935. The first ever night game in Major League history, played at Crosley Field in Cincinnati in front of a robust crowd of 20,000 when the Reds beat the Phillies 2-1. Well, here we are some 61 years later. We still don't find guys running hard on would-be double play ground balls.
Ooh, that does not look good. He hit the ball hard, and he knew that the second baseman, Castillo, was right over and going to touch the base. But I don't care what the situation is. That's all you have to do is run. And run as hard as you can to get to that base. That's not good.
66 years later.
You know, there are some managers have rules that you better get to first base. If it's a bang-banger and you know, a line drive at somebody one hop and you're going to be out by a long way, you still get to first base. Ray Ordonez got hung up there, and he was not busting it like he should have been.
Alex Gonzalez now takes a strike. 0-1 to the Marlins shortstop. Make it 0-2 to Gonzalez, leading off the top of the 5th. Gonzalez, then the pitcher spot, A.J. Burnett. And then back to top of the order, Luis Castillo. Gonzalez was a strikeout victim in the 2nd. 1 of 6 posted by Kevin Apier. Apier is en route to matching his single game high this year. He struck out 8 at San Francisco on May 13th. It's his high water mark so far. Still in front 1-2.
What he's doing is locating better than he has been lately. We talked about the fact that he has a lot of good off-speed pitches. A downer curveball, a 12-6 kind of action, a good slider, a good split finger. but he had not been locating his fastball. Tonight he's locating the fastball. He's thrown it by a lot of hitters up and in, right on the hands where he wanted it.
Still 1-2 to Alex Gonzalez.
This is where a catcher can really help a pitcher, even a veteran pitcher. And Mike Piazza has done a great job tonight moving in and out with his target and moving Kevin Appier in and out.
Seven strikeouts for Kevin Appier tonight.
The pitcher, number 43, A.J. Burnett.
This week on FX Saturday Baseball, Jim Edmonds and the Cardinals look to stay atop the NL Central as they head to Synergy Field to battle Sean Casey and the Reds. Coverage begins Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific on FX. Show local listings for start times in your area. Now it's the pitcher, A.J. Burnett, and he takes a strike.
Well, that's 3 consecutive strikeouts for Appier, and notice where that pitch was. Mike Piazza ran him back inside, and he followed Mike right in there. Perfect pitch.
A.J. Burnett, one of the young Marlins to tie the knot over the offseason. Or as some of my pals refer to it, take the plunge. Along with Armando Almanza, Derek Lee, and Preston Wilson. All of them off the market. Big swing and a miss, and Kevin Appier has matched his strikeout high. 8 for Appier tonight.
Second baseman, number 1, Luis Castillo.
He is dealing tonight, Jeff.
He is. He's locating beautifully with his fastball. We talked about it in the beginning of the game with the scouting report. If you're only throwing in the mid to high 80s as a right-hander, and you have to rely on your break and stuff, you better be able to locate your fastball. And that's not what Kevin Appier has been doing most of this year. That's why his record is what it is. But tonight he's pitching beautifully.
Speaking of the Marlins, former opening day starter Charlie Huff watching his pupil tonight, and he starts a leadoff hitter Louis Castillo with a strike.
I love Charlie as a person, but I never liked going in with him. First major league start or first major league game he went into Pittsburgh, and I had to run in there with him with a little glove, not a knuckleball glove either. It was embarrassing.
So many great lines about catching knuckleball pitchers.
Yes.
And I don't know who came up with this one. It was either Bob Didier or Bob Uecker, one of the guys that caught Phil Niekro and company, and they claim that one of the best things about catching a knuckleballer is that you get to know everybody sitting in the front row of the stands behind the plate on a first-name basis, as you're back there tracking past balls all night.
Oh boy, I'll tell you, it is tough to catch that darn thing, bouncing all over the place.
Castillo fouls it away, still 1-2.
I think Bob Uecker was the one that said the best way to catch a knuckleball is to wait till it stops rolling and pick it up.
Right.
But a knuckleball pitcher is a kind of guy that does not have a catcher on his Christmas list. I mean, you just don't. You want to stay away from him. If he's warming up in the bullpen, he's a reliever, you say, oh, please, no.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Castillo. Kevin Apier's going good. We mentioned he struck out 8 tonight. That matches his season high. If you're curious, his career best is 13 in a game. He's accomplished that 3 times in his career. Most recently, back in 1996. This is Appier vintage mid-90s tonight. Castillo makes contact but rolls it out to Alfonso to retire the side. 7 in a row retired by Kevin Appier. We're midway through tonight. Mets still lead it by a run.
Number 17.
We go to the bottom of the 5th inning at Shea Stadium tonight. 3-2 New York. Home team on top. And one of the many Shinjo watchers on hand tonight, tracking their hero's progress here in the States as A.J. Burnett goes back to work to square off against his pitching counterpart to start it, Kevin Appier, followed by Darren Bragg and Edgardo Alfonso. A.J. Burnett, former Met prospect, on hand, dealing to guys that would have been teammates had it not been for a trade that sent him to the Marlins. Heads up. That one coming in hot. And he got a piece of Kevin Apier up high where it scares you.
Well, of course, Apier got a base hit the last time up, but Burnett certainly is not trying to throw at the opposition pitcher leading off an inning. But there was a warning given. Phil Cuzzy warned John Bowles, and that is just to make sure that nothing does happen. John Bowles is saying, why? You know we're not throwing at him, but it's just a matter. They're going to make sure nothing else happens here.
And, you know, fans might say, well, just let him warn the guy. What's the hurt in that? What John Bowles wants to do is make sure his pitcher is protected from being afraid of throwing inside. Because if his pitcher comes inside again, and now Bobby Valentine seems pretty convinced that there should be more action taken.
You know what Bobby's so mad about, I believe, here, as he talks to Bruce Fleming, is the warning has been given, so his club gets a warning. And he said, why are we being warned? We didn't do that, and that's where, if you have watched this game tonight, folks, you can see that Apier has been so successful inside that Bobby does not want that taken away from his pitcher.
Yeah, Bobby's hot. He doesn't want the inside part of the play taken away from Apier. Now, meanwhile, Kevin Apier being attended to by the Mets training staff. Well, let's take a look at this again. Apier okay to continue, we hope. Taking his place at first. Apier was checking his mouth when he got up.
Well, that's part of what Bobby Valentine just gestured. He said, my pitcher got hit in the face, and we get warned.
Oh, wow. That's what it looked like in slow motion. Here's what it sounded like. He got a little red mark on the chops there from where that baseball came in and got him.
Well, I think he got lucky. I think it deflected either off his arm or off the ear flap, but I think he got lucky, because you take a shot in the face there and you could really have damage done.
Yesterday, the Mets were in Montreal, and without Leiter on the mound, pitcher Mike Thurman at the plate, Thurman was hit by Leiter and had to leave the game. Of course, what just happened here has absolutely nothing to do with yesterday's, because it was a different opponent. But the Mets have seen a couple of these plays now over the past 2 days with two different uniforms facing them.
Yeah, but it was different yesterday because Thurman swung at the ball. He swung at the ball and it hit him. But this is different. This is deflected off of somewhere. Oh, it's off his left hand, and then it hits him in the face and maybe got a little of that ear flap. He got lucky.
Back to the top of the order, Darren Bragg with Apier aboard. A ball and a strike to Bragg. Boy, it's really scary when a guy misses around the shoulders there, or above the shoulders, as was the case to Apier. And you got nowhere to go. I mean, you can't go down because the ball's liable to break into your head. Your first move is away from the plate. Oftentimes that brings you right into the pitch. That's just a duck and cover drill.
Yeah, it really is. Now, Burnett is wild. We talked about it, obviously, in a no-hitter throw through 9 walks. But tonight he threw 2 right over Agbayani's head, if you remember. Agbayani didn't see one of them. He just got very lucky, and he felt lucky afterwards with a deep breath. But you're right, Matt. One of the things that you always worry about is, even if you are making pitches inside, You don't want to be up around the head. That was just a wild toss on the first pitch, and there's another one.
Breaking ball bounces away from Charles Johnson. Not even the 4-time Gold Glover could do anything with that. Wild pitch moves Apier to second.
But when you have a pitcher who can throw as hard as Burnett, and he has this downer, real hard downer, and it hits in the dirt, you better react quickly. And Charles got kind of handcuffed on this. He did not block this ball. He reached out to backhand it, and it might have hit on the plate, and it got by him. Charles Johnson's a Gold Glover, but that was not a real good approach to catching that ball. He got caught in between.
Chance for Bragg to drive in a run now with the count at 2-2. A full count now, 3 balls and 2 strikes. And we'll see how careful Burnett is with the left-handed hit and Darren Bragg in there, and a runner at second, nobody out. Alfonso and Piazza up deck, no walk in the park. It's a foul ball.
Well, if you're the Marlins, one of the things you worry about is they're playing 4 games here in New York. You don't want to turn the opposition on by one of these plays, where you hit the pitcher. But here is a ball that Darren Bragg hits down behind the plate. And it was called a foul ball. Oh, you can see it. It was actually in foul ground when Charles Johnson snagged it with his glove. Good call by Phil Cuzzy.
Burnett tries it full again. Pitch to Bragg, line to right field. Gonna hold Apier at third. And the Mets have got runners at the corners with nobody out in the 5th.
Well, did you see who was in the middle of the play? A.J. Burnett was where he shouldn't be. He almost messed this play up. He should be backing up the play at home plate. Instead, he's in a cutoff position. There's the base hit by Bragg to right field. Now, here will be the throw to the plate. Now, watch where the pitcher is. Burnett doesn't belong here. Look at this. He could have messed this up royally. If he doesn't stop that ball and deflects it, there's nobody behind home plate. He doesn't belong there. The cutoff man was Millar. He was where he was supposed to be.
So now it's Alfonso, who has doubled in a pair of runs tonight and bounced into a fielder's choice play. This is the guy for the Mets that puts it all together. While people concentrate on the Piazzas and Venturas of the world, Alfonso last year hit .324, a career best. He is a career .310 hitter. Saw the numbers so far this year, a little substandard by his own par line.
Yeah, you're right. I really believe that this guy is such a key to how this ball club goes, because he has been struggling, as you mentioned. I talked to him Saturday. He said, I'm just trying to come out of things, but he is starting to hit. He picked up a home run on Saturday. He hit a big home run up in Montreal. This guy, you're right. This guy sparks this club.
Foul back.
He had a bad back earlier in the year, and it looked like it was affecting him. He was kind of feeling for the ball. He's not feeling for the ball now.
Ball and 2 strikes on Alfonso. Breaking ball misses inside. The numbers have improved steadily ever since breaking into the big leagues in the mid-90s here at Shea. You can see over that 3-season period, including his start this year, a .308 hitter since 1999. Consistent productivity from Edgardo Alfonso in the 2-hole. Fastball misses inside. 3-2 now.
Alfonso's been around a while. He's only 27 years of age. He reminds me a lot of Edgar Martinez. He is a really professional hitter and player. He approaches this game so sincerely. And he is some kind of good hitter and can use the whole field.
Pitch to Alfonso, lined into left. That plates Apier and makes it 4-2 New York. 3 runs batted in tonight for Edgardo Alfonso.
Number 31, Mike Piazza.
Now this ball is down. You can see the release with the top hand by Alfonso, and he hits a line drive over shortstop. And that hitting the pitcher could really turn this Mets team around. That might just be the spark that they need. You look for kind of critical happenings on a ball club. That could be it. Remember now, Apier has started both these rallies.
Now it's Piazza, and Burnett's in some serious trouble here with nobody out in the inning. Vladimir Nunez is up in the bullpen. First time there's been activity behind the Marlins starter tonight. The difference so far tonight for A.J. Burnett has been in the first 2 innings, he never got behind in the count. He faced 8 batters in his first 2 innings of work and never got behind on 1-0. He's been behind consistently since the end of the second, however, and that's how the Mets have done their damage with 4 runs. High fly ball in center. Again, with that wind, you really got to crush it to get it out tonight, and Wilson gaps! Oh, Mr. Wilson! About as reliable as they get out there in center field, but Preston coughed it up. That was a can of corn.
Well, we were talking about how briskly the wind is blowing. And that ball was crushed again by Piazza. Now he looks like he's under it, but see how he's having to come back in, and he looked away. Did you notice where he was looking? He was looking back toward the infield to see where the runners were. Here's Mike really crushing the ball. He knows it's not going to go out. He's frustrated by it, but Preston Wilson looked away from the ball.
Wow, Mike went from totally disappointed about the win to what? He dropped it? Piazza, the Mets get a gift. Here's Ventura now. You talk about a guy who's had success batting with the bases loaded. Yes, there is a steady wind blowing out from center, and you're going to have to really tag it to get it out. But if anybody's going to get it done, especially with the sacks full, it's Mr. Bases Loaded himself. Into the corner. That'll rattle around and make clear up. Bragg scores. Alfonso scores. They hold Piazza at third. On cue, Ventura delivers with the bases loaded. Jeff, we didn't even have a chance to set up the fact that he's a .353 career hitter with the bases loaded with 15 grand slams.
No, he messed up on this swing. He didn't get it up in the air. All he got was a double, a rocket next to the wall. But that was a high pitch that he went after, and that's the kind of ball that he gets out of here. But he'll take the double, driving in the 2 runs.
Meet the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. A.J. Burnett done for the night. We'll be right back. In the midst of a 3-run rally here in their half of the 5th inning, there's still nobody out, and this whole 3-run affair was started by Kevin Apier when he was hit by a pitch to lead off the inning.
Number 5,
A.J. Burnett gone from the mix here in the 5th, and the Marlins have turned it over to right-hander Vladimir Nunez.
Well, Nunez is a big guy, defector from Cuba, 6'4", almost 230 pounds. Had a terrible year last year for Florida. He was 0-6 with an earned run average almost at 8. Well, this year he's turned it around. He's having a heck of an outing, or I should say bunch of outings for this season. As you can see, 34 innings, 24 hits. Really good numbers. This big guy has got a live arm. Originally signed by the Arizona Diamondbacks.
He goes to work on Tsuyoshi Shinjo here with the runners aboard. Still nobody out, and 3 runs in the 5th inning. Shinjo was quiet against A.J. Burnett, 0 for 2. Off the end of the bat. Pop behind second. Castillo's out there to make the catch, and everybody's got to stay put.
Matty, these guys are really battling the wind like they used to at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. This wind is playing some tricks on balls now. Castillo is really battling that ball. Whenever you see an infielder or outfielder start to jiggle a little bit and they're not sure where it's coming down, you know the wind is affecting the ball. See this little pop-up? He's not real sure. They were playing in. Look at him. He's not real sure. He's really battling the ball.
One gone with first base open. And Florida's going to walk Todd Zeile. Interesting here that Zeile is not a left-handed batter, yet with one away, first base open, the Marlins simply want to set themselves up for the double play to try and get out of the inning, and they'll choose to work to Benny Agbayani.
Yeah, they're trying to get in a situation where they can put their infield back, because that scared the dickens out of Bowles right there on that little pop-up. Because when you have your infield in, all of a sudden those little bloops get behind your infielders.
Number 50.
This situation always worried me as a manager. Loading the bases for a guy you just brought in the game, invariably they walk the next guy that you have just loaded the bases for.
Piazza at third. Ventura after the two-run double at second. Zeile the recipient of the intentional pass at first. They are indeed loaded for Agbayani. Well, John Bull's taking his chances with the bottom of the order tonight because the guys at the top have killed him. Bragg and Alfonso, the top two hitters, are a combined 5 for 6. They've really made it happen on top of the order. And incidentally, that's what's gone wrong all year here in New York for Bobby Valentine. He's gotten productivity out of those spots tonight.
He really has. And of course, if the Marlins could have stayed away from Kevin Apier, he's the one that got the two big rallies going.
Good breaking ball in for a strike. 2-1 to Agbayani.
But you talk about the front end of the order being your table setters. Obviously, if you don't get those guys on, the big guys in the middle of the order, who are they going to drive in? And that has been a problem here.
Oh, that one comes in and gets Agbayani, and Nunez is gone. Phil Cuzzi issued the warning. Agbayani got hit squarely between the shoulder blades. Noonan, gone.
I can't believe that he threw the pitcher out. Would you think intentionally you're going to hit a hitter with the bases loaded?
Not a chance.
Now, come on now. What's going on here? Phil Cuzzi is a very good umpire, but come on. Now, there's got to be intent. There's no intent. What are you talking about? Why would you hit a guy with the bases loaded? What do you think's going on? John Bowles is saying, you think I loaded the bases so that I'd have my pitcher hit this guy?
Well, we've seen a little bit of everything tonight, haven't we?
We really have. I'll tell you what, this stuff about warnings and all this stuff with the pitchers is getting a little out of hand. Too much of it.
Well, you know what? We've been watching series, and I just watched one this week between Milwaukee and St. Louis where warnings were issued in each of the first 2 games of the series. 3 guys were hit after the warnings, yet there were no ejections because it becomes something subjective. After the warning is issued, it's at the umpire's discretion whether or not there was intent. And that's what John Bowles is arguing. Just as you mentioned, Jeff, he's saying there's no way my guy's going to hit their guy with the bases loaded and us down by 4.
I can't believe you got to use common sense here, and this is ridiculous. This is not common sense. What do you think? You're trying to stop a riot? But I mean, Phil Cuzzi is a real good umpire, but do you think he's trying to hit a guy with the bases loaded? I don't know. This whole issue has gotten out of hand. Frank Robinson is outstanding, the guy who runs this whole operation. Now, here's how it all started. This is Burnett hitting Apier. That's how this whole mess started. And there's a warning given right now. But that doesn't mean you have to throw the next guy out if he hits him. There's got to be intent involved in this.
Phil Cuzzi rationalizing with John Bowles, and John Bowles saying, "What up, Cuzzi?" Meanwhile, Bobby just grabs another piece of gum.
Well, Bobby did a darn good piece of politicking before when his pitcher got hit and he got out there. He was mad about the fact that his team was warned as well. And maybe that politicking had something to do with this. But, you know, I know it's difficult to understand and figure out what a pitcher's trying to do. But by gosh, with the bases loaded and you just loaded him by an intentional walk, you're not trying to hit somebody.
Another pitching change. Nunez, miss it.
Now pitching for the Florida Marlins, number 29, Ricky.
Bottom of the 5th inning. It's been a long one. Second pitching change of the inning for the Marlins with the Mets on top 7-2. Ricky Bones, the new pitcher for the Florida Marlins.
Ricky Bones, of course, had been a starter early part of his career, starting out in Milwaukee and hit a lot of clubs since then, but is doing a good job as the long reliever, middle reliever. Earned run average is down under 3. Anytime you have that in this day and age, you've done something. He's 31 years of age. And this is the third pitcher in this inning for the Marlins. This can blow out a pitching staff if you have to use a bunch of pitchers early in the game and you got a long 4-game series.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? As chairman of the welcoming committee, it is my honor and privilege to welcome you with this Laurel and hearty handshake. Blazing Saddles, folks, a true classic, Saturday at 9, 8 Central on Fox Family. I'll shill for that bad boy all day long, Jeff. It's one of the top 5 movies ever, by the way. Ricky Bones back, meanwhile, deal with this situation on the bases.
Well, remember what I said starting into that bases loaded situation. I was always afraid as a manager to intentionally walk the bases loaded because I was afraid of a walk.
It happened, didn't it?
Well, it wasn't quite a walk. He did walk to first base, but it was after he got drilled in the back.
Even worse.
Yes.
Well, the inning all began with Kevin Apier being hit by a pitch. And including Apier, the first 4 hitters to come to the plate in the 5th inning have all scored for the Mets. So it'll be up to Ricky Bones in his 11th major league season to try and cool things down with the bases loaded and only 1 away. Bones, you mentioned, Jeff, his early part of his career as a starter with Milwaukee. He was part of the compensation package when Milwaukee traded Gary Sheffield, a disgruntled Gary Sheffield, from Milwaukee to San Diego. Bones came to the Brewers with 2 other players, stayed in Milwaukee for a number of years, since has bounced around to the Yankees, the Reds, the Royals, Baltimore. Spent the entire season last year as a Florida Marlin. Kevin Apier's on deck to bat next. Mets have indeed hit around, and again, he's the guy that started the whole rally.
Oh, boy. When you see something like that, you think this man is lucky. And then this is where we are at this point with the bases loaded. Agbayani gets hit right between the numbers in the back with the bases loaded, causing Nunez, the young right-hander for the Marlins, to be ejected. And now Ricky Bones is getting all he needs to warm up in this situation.
Let's check in with Fam Cam and go down to Brian.
Thanks so much, Matt. I agree with what you guys are saying. You don't intend to hit a player. It's like ridiculous. What do you think about this, Cliff? What do you think about Nunez being thrown out of the game?
Hey, you're not going to throw at anybody with the bases loaded. Also, I don't think that Apier was knocked down on purpose either. Just got away from him. You don't throw at the pitcher either.
No, Jeff, you've got a lot to say about this. You and Cliff can probably converse for a second.
Well, I'll tell you, he's exactly right. He's a good fan, as you can see, with a Met hat and the jacket. He's been around this game, and he's right. It's only common sense watching. He's watching the game. He sees what we're seeing.
When you see something like that, do you get angry like a Met fan? What do you want to do?
What can you do? It's part of the game.
What, you go back and get a beer and sit down, have another dog?
No, just try not to get too involved in it.
Oh, my gosh. Well, you're a very sedate Mets fan. sedation has kicked in.
You gotta see me home in the living room. It's not that sedate.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll tune into you in the living room, Cliff. Thanks so much. Back to you, Jeff.
But you know what? That's a fan who's been around the game for a while, and nobody had to handle this kind of situation in the past as much as the umpires are now. The players used to take care of this. A lot of people say, well, because the American League has a DH, the pitcher will not hit. He can't take care of it. You can take care of it because there's an adage over there. Whatever position player gets hit for one team, you better watch out that player on the other team. But Frank Robinson is handling the discipline for Major League Baseball, and nobody is better at handling a situation like this when he was a player, when he was a manager, and so on. But I just think there's too much of this now, and too much of the umpires trying to handle it, because you got to read minds. You got to figure out, was there intent? Well, obviously there was no intent when the hitter is hitting the back with the bases loaded.
Well, finally ready to get back at it now. As Jeff mentioned, Ricky Bones giving as much time as he needed to warm up after the ejection of Vladimir Nunez. And now it's Ray Ordonez with the bases loaded. 4 runs in the inning for the Mets, a team that had struggled with runners in scoring position all season has really snapped out of it tonight. In fact, the Mets are en route to a season best run attack. Single game high so far this year, 9 runs. They've already played at 7 tonight. With Ordonez, they have officially hit around in the inning. 1-1.
Well, it must be mentioned, too, as we have been talking, that A.J. Burnett was just early part of the game, was a little bit wild, but he was very effective in the sense that even though he was wild in the strike zone, he was getting ahead of hitters. Then he got behind, but what's taken him down has been the opposing pitcher. Kevin Apier started off the 3rd inning with a base hit, and as a result, 3 runs scored, and then he got hit in the face in this inning, and the inning is still going.
2 balls and a strike on Ordonez now. One career grand slam for Ordonez. Swing and a miss. 2-2 now.
Well, that was a good pitch. Bones had a sinker ball in the outer part of the plate, and that was really a good spot with that last pitch. And it's tough in this situation. You've only got a cushion of 1 more pitch here. And then you have to come in with a pitch. Remember, there's no place to put him.
Fastball. Had him guessing. Ordonez caught looking for out number 2.
Big pitch right here for Ricky Bones. He starts the ball over the outer part of the plate and it comes back. See Charles Johnson set up outside. Look how it comes back. That's a Greg Maddux type of pitch right there. That's a nasty pitch. That started out outside. Ray Ordonez just said, well, I'm not going to swing with the bases loaded at a bad ball, but that was a good pitch.
Kevin Apier, the batter now, back to the pitcher who led off the inning. Apier was hit by a pitch and scored. That started the 4-run rally. And he takes his strike from Ricky Bones.
You can see him using his tongue on the inside of his mouth where that ball was deflected and hit him in the face. I bet he's got a fat lip, and inside of that mouth has got to hurt.
In fact, if you look at his chin closely enough, you can see the words official Major League Baseball, Alan H. Bud Selig.
Now, we'll say again, anytime you get hit in the face, you're not lucky, but he was lucky that he didn't take the full brunt of that in the face.
Caught looking, and Ricky Bones comes out of the Florida bullpen to cool things off in the 5th. All told, plenty of damage by the Mets. I think Mongo here's taking a shine to you. 4 in the 5th. At the end of 5, it's 7-2 New York. Thursday Night Baseball on Fox Family is brought to you by Mitsubishi. Wake up and drive. Well, Kevin Apier back to work on the mound after batting twice in the bottom half of the inning. He goes back to work in the top of the 6th. And the real story tonight has been Apier's pitching prowess.
Well, he has pitched beautifully. Only 76 pitches at this point, and he has really been effective in his strikeout package. If you take a look at where he's pitching, most of these strikeouts are the inner half of the plate. Now, there's one away, but all but that have been in, then two away, then back inside, and then up. I'll tell you what, he's gotten away with his fastball up out of the strike zone several times. As you see this grouping, see, three of them are up above the strike zone. He got two outside and the rest are inside. Mike Piazza's done a terrific job of using his fastball tonight.
Pitch tracks provided by Questtech.com. But that really gave us a pretty good look. It has not been one part of the plate or one particular pitch for Apier tonight. In fact, half those strikeout pitches were out of the strike zone.
Well, now they wouldn't have chased him unless he was ahead in the count. See, that's what's really helped him. He's made the pitches he's needed to make with his fastball, and then he can go to his other pitches. And the Marlins have been chasing that high, hard one. You know, he's a drop and drive pitcher. Apier drops on his back leg, and every once in a while he gets alongside the ball and he runs it up through the zone like a rising fastball.
Well, that one tight to John Mabry.
Well, a little message right there, but Apier's got a delivery that's a little bit, as you see the pitch to Mabry is up at his shoulder. There's nothing wrong with this if you keep it out of the head area. But Apier's got a delivery that starts out a little like Goose Gossie's, a great reliever.
Big swing and a miss, 2-1.
He just doesn't throw as hard. He drops down on his back leg and then comes in from that low arm angle with a herky-jerky motion. Goose Gossage used to throw about 10 miles an hour harder than this when he went through this delivery, but Apier really sits on the back leg.
Back on the inside, took something off that pitch, and now it's 3-1. Apier has struck out 8 tonight. That matches a season high. Only 4 hits for the Marlins tonight. They got both their runs in the second. And Mabry pops it up. Look at the wind grab that one. Ventura's got to come back to the plate to make the catch. You know, fortunately, Kevin Apier and on the other side of the equation, A.J. Burnett, who's since been removed, they're both big guys, so there won't be any Stu Miller impersonations on the mound tonight.
That's true.
That is really blowing.
You're not kidding. Now we're going to take a look at Apier's delivery. Now watch from the side. He will really sit down on his back leg, and then he drives in low. Take a look at this. Now here he goes down. He'll drop lower. Watch him sit lower and lower on the back leg. Now he comes. Look how his arm gets way low. And that's why tonight he has been able to throw an 87, 88 mile an hour fastball by hitters up, because he's kind of throwing uphill.
Cliff Floyd the batter now. A long foul ball, 0-1 to Floyd. Kevin Apier is big and country strong in his 13th major league season. You know, part of his off-season training regime, at least for a couple years while with the Royals, included Kevin taking a bucket of baseballs and going into the back of his farm and throwing them into the blade of a bulldozer.
And he's right-handed. Here's Cliff Floyd. We talked about it, the size of Floyd. Now look where most left-handers like the ball down, you see. Floyd likes that ball down and away where he can get his arms extended.
Popped it up, and again the wind's going to grab that one. Ordonez gets out there from shortstop to put it away.
Now those hot zones give you an idea. Where it was red shows where this hitter hits the ball well, and those are good graphics to show your team without spending a lot of time. Don't throw here, don't throw there. This is where the guy is hot. Now watch where they pitch him. He likes the ball out over. Okay, now watch where the pitch is. It was out over, but it was up. And it was in the blue area.
Kevin Apier's now retired 9 in a row. Preston Wilson, the batter, with 2 gone.
You know, I caught what you said about Stu Miller, and folks out there remember the All-Star game in 1962 from Candlestick Park in San Francisco. Stu Miller, who was a real soft changeup type pitcher, got blown off the mound with a runner at third base. He was a little bit smaller than these guys. You're right. These guys are big guys on the mound. They're not going to get blown around, but the wind is blowing a gale out here tonight. This is good. Could be a little bit of a circus for the rest of the evening.
Literally knocked him off the mound. Still one of my favorite All-Star Game stories ever. And that's the kind of wind that could do it to a smaller guy right there. Nothing in one to Preston Wilson, rather, and that one's hit well to left. Agbayani back at the track, at the fence. He makes the catch. It's the third out, Benny. You can throw it into the stands if you wish. Yeah, there you go. Attaboy. Had to make sure it was the third out. He's been burned on that one before. Another 1-2-3 inning for Kevin Appier. Back with the bottom of the 6th inning from Shea Stadium in New York. Matt Vasgersian back with Jeff Torborg and Brian Leary. 7-2 for the home team. You know, defenders of the New York Mets will cite their sub-500 record last year in mid-May and their eventual rise to the World Series as being no cause to worry this year. You buy into that?
Well, when you're losing, that's a good thing to say. You know, you say, hey, we've got a chance. Well, they have been fortunate that the Braves haven't run way out. Of course, the Phillies have gotten off to a great start, but they're getting their guys back now. And of course, tonight might be an example of what they need to do. Their table setter's 5 for 6 tonight with 4 runs scored. That's what they have to do. Well, Alfonso is starting to hit, and Darren Bragg 3 for 3 has really helped this club since he's come up.
Top of the order has just been outstanding for Bobby Valentine's crew tonight. Bragg, the guy, 3 for 3 with 2 runs scored. Ricky Bonas back to work on the mound, having been called on to relief for Vladimir Nunez, who was ejected last inning. Counts the ball and a strike on Darren Bragg. Line into right. Darren Bragg 4 for 4 tonight.
Well, we talked early in the game about Darren Bragg striking out 3 times on Saturday against the Dodgers, and probably the advanced scout saw that happen. Now, this was a hanging breaking ball or a sinker that didn't sink. But Darren Bragg tonight has hit everything that's been up in the zone. First time up, he shot the ball to left field, and since then he's pulled the ball to the right side. He's got reason to smile. This guy's a hard-nosed player. Came up originally with Seattle.
He's on base once again to start an inning for Edgardo Alfonso. 4 hits tonight for Darren Bragg, by the way. That ties a career best. Alfonso's had a nice night.
You know what Alfonso just did? He stepped back and asked the umpire to have Ricky Bonas take the rosin bag off the top of the mound. That's a good hitter. That's focused hitting. When I was up there, I didn't know where the rosin bag was. He noticed that the rosin bag was down below Ricky's arm, and the umpire had Bonas move it behind the mound. The real good hitters look for a release point on the pitcher and focus. Well, he saw the rosin bag.
Rod Carew has talked about it a lot. A former batting champion, a 7-time batting champion, and former MVP. The fact that hitters have a box, about a 5 by 5 inch box, that's usually at the top of a pitcher's release point, and that's where you pick up the ball. And if you don't get it there, you're not going to get it any lower or any higher.
Well, you can see Alfonso catch a hanger and drive a ball in the left field for 2 runs there, and his head's right down on the ball. Now this ball's low and away, and see how his head stays right down his arm. When a hitter sometimes is struggling, his head doesn't stay on the ball. Alfonso is right on. He's locked in right now.
Something that Met hitting coaches have talked about over the past couple of years, regardless of who that person may be. And Dave Ingles, in his first year as a Mets hitting coach this season under Bobby Valentine, guys talk about Edgardo Alfonso's plate balance. Rarely lunges. That one's punched into right field. A long run for Mabry, and he can't make the catch. Marlins outfield's got the yips tonight. We'll see how that one's scored.
The catcher.
We get our answer quickly over the stadium wire. They're giving an error to John Mabry.
Well, now this is off the hands, and you talked about his balance, Alfonso, shooting it to right. He pushes into right field, but remember, Mabry's just came back. His head is jiggling. He just flat out missed that ball. When you're running hard after a ball, your head is jiggling, and Mabry is basically a first baseman who plays the outfield as well. He was bouncing a little there, and he just missed it.
Now it's Piazza with runners on. This was not the situation that Ricky Bonas envisioned when he began the inning. Bragg singled. Alfonso reaches on the E9. Runners on base for Piazza, who's hitless tonight. Mike's had runners on base for all 4 of his at-bats. That one's popped up. Johnson chases, but it's into the seats.
Well, Matt, I'll tell you, even though Mike struck out the first at bat, he could have, on a normal night here at Shea Stadium, and obviously it's not a normal night, 2 home runs. He crushed 2 balls. One to left center and the other more to center field. And the wind is blowing a gale in directly from center field and held the balls up. But boy, he hit 2 balls right on the butt.
Picks up the outside corner. Well, the numbers that Piazza is on a pace for this season, below his career batting average, yet the home run ball is every bit in check, on a pace for 35 once again this year. That one lifted into left. Floyd's got to come in for it again. 1 away.
Well, that projection we just saw, what he might do this year, if you're counting on his numbers right now, don't count on that, baby. This guy is a hitter, and when he gets hot, and I think he's coming out of it. Watching his swings tonight, that last swing was real quick hands, but he didn't quite get it on the good part of the bat. But he's getting close.
Those might be the 4 dirtiest words in baseball. On a pace to.
Yes.
You know, those are words that just a phrase, if you will, that could really ruin a guy as a player during a season. McGuire didn't want to hear about his home run pace. Sammy Sosa doesn't want to hear about that. Guys don't want to hear about their pace to win 30 games or their pace to steal 100 bases, because invariably baseball's played every night and the numbers are going to catch up with you. There's no way to rationalize those and project them out like that.
Thank you very much. You think a manager ever wants to hear that about what they think his club might do? If he's going well, you don't want your team thinking that way. You can't look too far down the road. If they're going badly, you don't want them thinking about the same thing. You know, the old cliches, 1 game at a time. As a manager, you preach that till you're blue in the face.
Robin Ventura, well hit to center field. It turns around Preston Wilson and gets all the way past him. Here comes Darren Bragg to score. Here comes Alfonso. Now he's being held at third. Robin Ventura's going crazy tonight. 4 runs batted in for Robin. That's a single season high.
The center fielder, number 5, Yoshi Shinjo.
Well, this is a rocket. The last at bat, the double he hit with the bases loaded, he didn't get it up in the air. He hit a line drive. Well, this one is a line drive, and this is a ball directly over Preston Wilson's head, and he is really hauling for it. He can't catch up. When you have the wind blowing in the way it is tonight, you play that way. You can see on the pitch tracks where the pitches are. They're out over the plate, and Robin has gone right through that area straight away.
Here's Shinjo now with runners on and a run in.
But the point I'm making is Preston Wilson is playing shallow in center field because he knows the wind is blowing a gale in center field. You get under the ball, it won't go anywhere. Robin didn't get under it. He got behind it.
Shinjo's jammed and he fouls it away. It is a game high for Robin Ventura this season. The 4 runs batted in, just to clean up my sloppy vernacular from earlier. Shinjo broke the bat and needs a new one here. Behind 0-2.
Shinjo reminds me a little bit of a player that was a big star in Japan in the late 50s and through the 60s. Nagashima. He was an MVP for the Tokyo Giants for a number of years. He and Sada Haruo, who was the first baseman on those great Giant teams, had a great rivalry. Nagashima was built a lot along the lines of Shinjo, and he also lifted his legs and held his hand, lifted his front leg and held his hands like this.
Fastball misses off the corner by Bonus. 1-2.
It'll be interesting to see. Shinjo has not missed many fastballs. Interesting to see how he handles breaking stuff. I think he's going to get a steady diet of them. You know what he just did? They're going to watch his eyes. He's looking down for location.
2-2.
And what we mean by that, he looks like he's looking at his bat, but he's looking to see in peripheral vision where the catcher is setting up location. Now pitchers can definitely change this, and especially catchers will see how he looks down. He might be looking at the plate, but he also might be looking for location.
Popped him up. It's short right. John Mabry on the run. Castillo's out from second, and Castillo can't make the catch. What in the name of Keith Moreland is going on out there tonight?
Well, here's another error, but we told you about the wind. Now, Castillo went an awfully long way for that. The infield was playing in. Now watch, you can see the ball go off his hand. You see Alfonso then score easily, and the throw goes into third base. We told you earlier about when you play the infield in, how the bloop over your head can be a problem. Well, that ball was just barely on the grass, but Castillo, the second baseman, had started up on the infield grass. And he had a long way to go for that ball, and with his head jiggling, he just missed it.
And bear in mind now that the Marlins are one of the best defensive units in the big leagues. At the start of play tonight, they were one of a handful of teams atop the league in fielding percentage. The Phillies, Marlins, Brewers, and Rockies all catching the ball at a 987 clip. But tonight, 3 boots. And in all fairness to the Marlins, as you've talked about as well, Jeff, that is a big factor. Stiff wind.
Yes. Well, the first big error was when Preston Wilson took his eye off the ball, but he was battling the wind as well. He took his eye off the ball on a long fly ball off the bat of Piazza to look at the runners. And because the wind was blowing, it went off his glove.
Fastball blown past Todd Zeile.
The next error was by Mabry coming in from right field, and the ball was kind of sinking, and his head was jiggling, and the wind was killing that ball a little bit, and it went off of his glove. Now this last one, that's a tough error on Castillo, playing up on the infield grass, having to go back to home plate, wind blowing, and it goes off his glove.
Castillo's not the kind of guy that's going to just blow off kicking a baseball either. He is a fan favorite and a coach's favorite in Florida. John Bowles calls him maybe his most coachable player. In fact, to the degree that he once fined himself last season. Zeile keeps the hit parade alive, and the Mets have scored a season-high 10 runs tonight.
Number 50, Benny Agbayani.
Well, we talked about Zeile's stance, how he reacted. Now he is definitely going to right field with this, right from the beginning. He knew the situation, runners at first and third. He's going to go to right field, even if he hits the ball hard on the ground, because it's tough to turn a double play that way. That's a good piece of hitting. And when you get 10 runs on the board, the coach and the hitter runner can laugh about it.
Well, they hit around in the 5th. In fact, they sent 10 batters to the plate in the 5th inning. Here we are in the bottom of the 6th, and Benny Agbayani stepping up with only 1 gone. 2 runners aboard, and Agbayani is the 7th Met to come to the plate in the 6th inning. This is the first of a 4-game series, mind you. The Marlins are already on their 3rd pitcher of the night. John Bowles is not in a position to where he can just use Johnny Holstaff out there and blow through his entire unit. you know, Mr. Torborg, that Benny Agbayani has his own coffee line out now? Benny's Kona. Watch for it at a market near you. An all-state Hawaiian high school football and soccer player. And he has a charity called the Kiss a Pig campaign.
I want to hear you explain this. The Kiss a Pig campaign.
I knew you were going to ask me about that. It's like Revenge of the Nerds, the Eat a Pie contest. I don't know, some kind of a charity deal. It has to do with the state fair.
Did you know that I have a grandson who's a pig? His breaking looper, reliever in the bullpen. My son Dale, the wrestler, happens to have a pig. So he's our grandson.
Okay. Boy. Runners go, and Agbayani fouls it away. I hope he doesn't take to one side of the family more so than the other.
Well, he eats like one side of the family. But pigs are very bright. I want you to know that.
Well, we're being told that the Kiss a Pig Foundation benefits the American Diabetes Foundation, so a good cause with a goofy name.
Okay.
Agbayani just concerned with driving in runs here. Mets on top by 8. It's a full count to Agbayani with 1 away. Mets batting in their half of the 6th. The runners go, and there's ball 4 to Agbayani. It seems like it's been the story all night. Bases loaded for the Mets. This will be the 2nd straight inning in which Ray Ordonez will have a bases loaded plate appearance.
You know, this is like a game for the Mets. You know, when you have these rehab games where you want a guy to get a lot of at-bats, so you let him lead off each inning in the minor leagues or in exhibition games. That's the 3rd consecutive inning that Agbayani has hit. It's a good way to get your at-bats in. It's a very difficult time. We shouldn't laugh up here because it's tough on the Marlins. As you're talking, Rich Dubé, the pitching coach, just going out, and you got to have somebody eat up some innings for your club or you're going to have a problem. The Mets last week had Desi Relaford go in to pitch. When you have to have a regular player go in and pitch, but he had a great inning. Struck out a batter, was a pitcher, of course, but he struck out a batter. As a manager, you don't like that, to have to go to regular players to pitch, but you really want to save your staff if you can.
You know, Charlie Huff's actually been working with Desi Relaford just in case they need him again. There's a little chopper. Bonus gets it over to Millar. That's the 2nd out of the inning. At this point, the Marlins exchange the run for the out. 11-2 Mets.
Number 17.
The RBI for Ordonez is his 16th of the year. Just a little chopper that scored Shinjo.
If this were a closer game, he might have gone to the plate with it. There was a chance of a bang-bang play at the plate, but they're just trying to get through this. Get it out, take it when you can to save your pitching staff. You know, Matt, we were talking about when Kevin Apier got hit in the face that this is the type of thing that can ignite a club. Now, whether it's just for one game, who knows, but that type of thing can really get the blood flowing with a club, and the Mets and Bobby Valentine went out and did a heck of a job of politicking and showing his anger. So sometimes a manager will use whatever motivational tactics he can use. Obviously, he had a reason, but it wasn't a phony motivation. He was upset that his pitcher, or that his club got warned that they supposedly had to stay away from the inside part of the plate. But you take whatever you can get as a manager to get your club going.
And there's no need for Bobby V's disguise kit tonight. His Mets have had a great pitching performance by Kevin Apier. Banging the ball all over the place. 11 runs on 10 hits. And as we mentioned earlier now, they've hit around for the 2nd straight inning. 0-2 to Apier, popped up, and that'll fade into the seats.
You know, when you said about the disguise that Bobby Valentine used that time, he was thrown out of the game, came back in the dugout. That's what those kids in the stands earlier looked like.
You know, that's right.
Yeah, I wondered why they looked familiar.
It was less Piazza, and it was more Bobby V with the Groucho nose and glasses. That's right. Nothing at 2, the count to Apier. Runners at second and third. The Mets have plated 4 more in the inning. Apier pops to right. This one Castillo grabs. Side is retired. 4 more for the Mets in their half of the 6th. Ricky Bonas in a New York state of mind. Mets by 9. Mets in double digits in the runs column for the first time this year as they lead Florida by 9 in the bottom of the 6th. A reminder, this copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. For further dissemination, let's go back to Fam Cam with Brian Leary.
Well, I need some express written consent, please, if you don't mind. Where's Johnny Cochran when you need him? Now, in the meantime, Christine, how do you feel like catching a fly ball, a foul ball on the highest scoring game this season so far?
This is amazing. I've been to so many games, and nothing like this has ever happened to me.
And you know what I love? You caught the ball without breaking any nails.
Well, honestly,
yeah,
I was ducking. I'm not a fool. I'm not going for one of those balls.
So you made the guy do it?
No, I just ducked, and as everybody was scrambling, it just came to me.
That's fabulous. It was meant to be. It was fate. Wait, Christine, I got a secret why the Mets are getting out of the slump.
Okay.
Come over here, you guys. Come here. Jeff, Matt, Carl.
Yes.
So you and I have been talking about this, and we were noticing there's something a little strange going on with Mike Piazza's hair, isn't there?
It's very highlighted, I think.
It's a whole Frosting Tips thing kind of going on, and I think that's what's gotten him out of the slump. What do you think?
I think that soon his hitting will become headlines.
You know, and if he gets a perm, they could go back to the World Series. It's just a suggestion. Back to you guys. What do you think, Carl?
I am in agreement wholeheartedly. We want to know who his hairdresser is, who his barber is, and whatever it takes, we're going to do it.
Okay. Back to you guys.
No, I'll tell you, if Mike Piazza goes to the Mike Brady look, that's when we shut down this telecast on the spot. No perming. We got past that in the early 80s. Where's Rick Cerrone right now, by the way? Talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, the Newark Bears.
Mike Lowell leads things off here in the top of the 7th inning for the visiting Marlins. Lowell, Johnson, and Millar for Florida.
The only thing I have to ask, she's talking to a guy talking all about the Mets and Piazza, and he's got a Yankee hat on.
Boy, this town, huh? What have you done for me lately? My goodness. 2 balls and no strikes to an ex-Yankee prospect, Mike Lowell. Born of the Yankee chain. That one misses inside. Lowell had a breakthrough season last year with the Marlins. 22 home runs, 91 driven in. Being counted on for similar numbers, if not better, this season. He's in front of Apier, 3-0. Kevin Apier has not walked a batter tonight. 3-1.
Yeah, Matty, I was just thinking, one of the differences in the Mets, and when they have started to get and starting to play the way they think they can play or should be playing, started with Leiter coming back last Friday night. He's won 2 games.
On the ground for Ventura, 1 away.
The catcher, number 23, Charles Johnson.
Next week is the return of Fox Saturday Baseball as Juan Gonzalez looks to continue his torrid start for the Indians and take on Derek Jeter and the defending world champion Yankees, or 2 National League powers collide when Gary Sheffield and the Dodgers battle Jeff Bagwell and the Astros, or other regional action. Watch the entire baseball season unfold across the Fox networks. 1 out in the inning. That'll bring up the catcher Charles Johnson.
Just thinking about, we've been talking about this Mets team all night and what they need to get going again. And I think one of the keys is to get the race back. And getting Al Leiter back affects the rest of the pitching staff as well. Not just the team record, it affects how the pitching staff goes. Now, Steve Traxel was sent out after he had a lousy game last week. He pitched tonight in the minor leagues, and in 6 innings he gave up 3 more runs and 8 hits. So he has not been real effective. But bringing Leiter back has juiced this club up.
In so many ways, as Charles Johnson takes a look at a called strike 3. That's 9 punch-outs, a season high for Apier. He's retired 12 in a row. Before Al Leiter returned, Mets starters were averaging just 5 2/3 innings a start. And there's a cumulative effect that takes its toll on the bullpen and on the rest of the rotation when starters can't consistently get into the 7th and 8th innings of games. Kevin Millar now with 2 out.
You know, there's so many little factors involved when you're behind in the game all the time because your starting pitching is not doing well. Your whole offense comes out of their focus and out of what they can do. When your starting pitching starts to come and your club feels like you're going to be in every game, all of a sudden the hitters start to do different things.
Ex-Astro, ex-Padre Donnie Wall, the right-hander, is up in the New York bullpen behind Kevin Apier.
But the point you made is so well taken. You stay out of your bullpen, not to mention your offense. You stay out of your bullpen sooner in ball games, so it doesn't become a collective tiring effect. But since Al Leiter came back and won, he's won 2 games. The Mets beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3. They beat the Expos 2 out of 3, and of course they're winning tonight big.
Well, over the offseason, the big loss certainly here in New York was when Mike Hampton decided to take that lucrative free agent bid and deal with the Coors Field effect and become a Rocky. So with the loss of Hampton noted, Steve Phillips and the rest of the front office here signed some other starters to try and put back those innings. But as we know, it's awfully tough to replace a perennial 20-game winner and a horse like Mike Hampton, even if you do it with multiple guys. You know, you sign Traxel and Apier to try and replace one guy. That's awfully tough to do.
Doesn't work very often. That happened with Nolan Ryan way back with the Angels. They said, oh, we'll fill in his innings. They'll fill in his innings with 2 pitchers. Yeah, and they'll get about 20 losses out of it, too.
Yeah.
Now, Apier really has looked good tonight. I saw him Saturday, as we mentioned. He was not as sharp. He pitched relatively well, but tonight he has really pitched the way he used to pitch with Kansas City, with a little less in his arsenal. He doesn't throw as hard as he once did before he hurt his arm. But this is a big evening out here for Apier and the Mets.
Working 2 balls and 2 strikes on Kevin Millar. 10 strikeouts for Kevin Apier tonight. 13 in a row retired by the Mets starter. 7th inning stretch, 11-2 Mets. All Mets tonight so far at Shea as fans are up and stretching in the bottom of the 7th. 11-2 New York. 5th inning was key tonight. As far as the game summary, Bragg and Alfonso on top of the order, 6 for 8. They've done a lot of damage. Kevin Apier has been outstanding on the mound. 100 pitches. He'd retired 13 in a row, make it 12 in a row. He's thrown 100 pitches tonight and gotten 18 of his last 19. As far as the Marlins, 3 errors, 3 drop fly balls. As we mentioned, the 5th inning was key. In the top half, Apier was strong. Strikeouts of Alex Gonzalez and the pitcher A.J. Burnett. There's Gonzalez looking at strike 3. Then in the bottom half, Apier led off, got hit the chops, and that set the table and started a 4-run rally. Edgardo Alfonso cashed in with an RBI single in the inning. A ball mishandled in the outfield, and then Robin Ventura drove in 2 more. 2 of 4 for Ventura tonight. When it was all said and done, there were 4 for the Mets in the 5th inning. They tacked on 4 more in the 6th. So now the Marlins are on their 4th pitcher of the night. He is Braden Looper.
Looper's a big kid at 6'5", 225 pounds. Came over from the Cardinals in the Edgar Renteria deal. Had an excellent year last year for the Marlins. Is not putting up the same kind of numbers. And yet, when you see hits fewer than innings pitched, you know the guy's doing a pretty good job. Walks and strikeouts are a little too close for a guy this big, but this guy's another one of the good young arms that they use out of the bullpen. Had been a top prospect with the Cardinals, and he's one of those guys that the Marlins has gone out to get the best young arms they can whenever they made a trade of one of their former stars.
So Braden Looper will try to do what no Marlin pitcher's been able to do tonight, and that's retire Darren Bragg. Bragg is a career best 4 for 4 so far tonight. Leading off the bottom of the 7th for New York. And behind Braden Looper, 0-2.
Well, his first at bat we're talking about, Bragg hit a ball that was up and out over the plate, and he shot it to left field. And the next 3 at-bats, he had line drives. You can see the first at-bat was up and out over, and he did a nice piece of hitting and hit it down the left field line. The rest were from the middle in that he pulled.
A ball and 2 strikes now to Darren Bragg. Swing and a miss, strike 3. A strikeout for Braden Looper on the first hitter he faces.
Well, maybe Darren was a little tired from running the bases each time he came up. But this was a good fastball from Looper. And this is on the inner half. And this is just thrown by him.
A pinch hitter being sent up for Alfonso now. Switch hitter Desi Relaford will bat from the left side of the plate and most likely stay out there defensively for Alfonso. The guy who you mentioned earlier, Jeff, was used on the mound in mop-up duty this year and actually got it up to about 91 miles an hour.
He did. And he struck a pitcher out with a changeup, and the bottom fell out of it. He has been doing a terrific job with the bat from the left side of the plate. And as I mentioned earlier, Alfonso came out of the game here Saturday late in the game because of patella tendonitis in one leg. So you maybe are seeing a situation where Bobby Valentine is trying to rest his star second baseman.
A ball and a strike to Relaford. Came up with the Seattle chain. Has seen most of his big league time with the Phillies. Was a Padre for a short period of time last year. And is now behind in the count 1-2. 2 balls and 2 strikes for Braden Looper. You know, this is the first of a 4-game series, and it's the first meeting between these 2 divisional rivals this year. Last season, the Mets and Marlins split their 12-game series evenly, each club winning 6. A swing and a miss, strike 3.
The catcher, number 31.
Next Thursday, the Boston Red Sox head north of the border to take on the Toronto Blue Jays. A Thursday night baseball on Fox Family. It all begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. A couple of strikeouts for Braden Looper out of the bullpen. Mike Piazza now with 2 out. Piazza reached on an error charge to Preston Wilson in the 5th. That was one of the 3 fly balls dropped by the Marlins tonight. Mike's hit a couple of them well. That stiff wind blowing in has cost him at least 1, maybe 2 home runs tonight.
You know, it's interesting watching Mike stand up there on his first pitch. I think he thought he was going to catch one inside on the first pitch, and then the second one they went in there. It was almost like he thought something was up there.
3-0 to Piazza. Robin Ventura waiting on deck. 11 runs on 10 hits tonight for the Mets. That's Piazza's Marlin lineage. Before coming to the Mets, the Dodgers sent him to Florida temporarily, along with Todd Zeile in the Gary Sheffield deal. There's a strike to Piazza, 3-1. Mike didn't stick around in South Florida very long. Now a full count, 3-2.
And Charles Johnson, who was in that deal that you just mentioned behind the plate right now, didn't stay with the Dodgers very long either. And of course, certainly a lot longer than Mike stayed with the Marlins.
There's a payoff pitch home to Piazza, fouled away. It's unclear where Charles Johnson will end up beyond this year as well. It's one of the more compelling stories when you talk about the Marlins, and something fans might be a little worried about. Although he signed a 5-year contract extension, there's a clause in there that allows Johnson to leave the Marlins after this season if they have not secured the financing for a new stadium. Another one hit well by Piazza that dies in left. And that'll retire the side. More on Charles Johnson's contractual status and other notes as we continue. And suddenly a Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire musical has broken out somewhere in the stands. Let's investigate with FamCam and go to Brian Leary.
Thank you so much, you guys. Hey, the fleet has arrived, but unfortunately we're up on the, I need the oxygen seats, but we're still having a good time with the FamCam. Hey, where are you guys from? Yeah, exactly. They're from everywhere and from the USS John F. Kennedy, and they have a special song for all you Mets fans and for you guys up in the booth. Ready, you guys? 1, 2, 3. New York, New York, it's the heck of the ground. The Bronx are and the batter is down. New York, New York. That was just for you.
My goodness, I hope those guys can carry our nation better than they can carry a tune. Don't quit your day jobs, fellas. Thank you, Brian. Man alive. 1-0 to Alex Gonzalez, leading things off against a new pitcher on the mound for the Mets. And that one's gone. Well, how about that? We're talking about the stiff wind blowing in all night. And the little shortstop hitting $2.37 with all the one home run this year. Punches one over the wall, Oppo style.
Well, it's kind of interesting. The flag started blowing a little bit instead of straight in over toward the right field foul line, but that was a line drive. That's the only way you're going to get a ball out of here tonight, is hit it underneath the wind. But the wind did shift a little bit.
They're hitting for the Florida Marlins. Number 9, Ryan McGuire.
So Donnie Wall comes in for Kevin Appier and yields the home run ball. Number 2 on the year for Gonzalez.
Well, here's the pitch, up and away, and Gonzalez gets right behind the ball and surprises himself. I think he was watching, he couldn't believe that it went out.
There's a pinch hitter now in the pitcher's spot. Ryan McGuire, the left-handed batter, will swing it off the bench. Home run by Alex Gonzalez, and it's 11-3 Mets. Hey, you know, I'm reminded as Brian Leary brings us that musical number out there in left field. Marlin manager John Bowles actually has some experience in the music industry. First of all, however, we want to keep you up to speed on what the Mets are doing with the long ball. They've hit 42, second fewest total in the majors, yet they've allowed 63, second most in the majors. That does not a happy equation make.
But it's second in both categories. They're trying harder.
That one's fouled away. John Bowles, Marlin manager, in between baseball gigs to try and round up some extra pocket change, worked as a concert promoter in the Chicago area, handling bands like early 80s rockers Styx, among others. Pre-Pieces of 8 tour. 3-2 pitch home to the pinch hitter is fouled away. Those are one of those jobs, that's kind of gig that you have to take when you're in the minors or you're working at the collegiate level in the off season. Not too many major league ball players need to drive UPS trucks or flip burgers anymore in the off season. A swing and a miss, strike 3.
Well, that's a good point. That's the way the players used to have to do it. But also, sometimes as a manager, you make sure you have another option as a vocation.
Are you speaking from experience? Do I sense that?
2 out of 3 times, yes.
One gone for Donnie Wall. Now it's the top of the order, Luis Castillo. Castillo's hitless tonight. Last year's Major League stolen base leader has been kept off base all night tonight. And that's a good way to start when you talk about ways to beat the Marlins. Taking a look at Desi Relaford there. He did, in fact, stay in at second base for Edgardo Alfonso. And Super Joe McEwing completes your 8th inning defensive re-scheme.
You know, watching Castillo hit. Watching him last year, he used to bail out. His front leg would go right out down the first base line, but his hands were still backing out over the plate, and he shot the ball all over. This year, watching him, he's trying to stay in with everything, and he's getting jammed. He's not hitting anywhere near. He's 100 points lower than he was last year at this time. So you can almost see him trying to hold his right side in, and it's almost tying him up. It's strange. Some guys will look funky by leaving home. Their front leg is gone, but their hands stay back. The great Roberto Clemente used to spin open, but his hands are still back. It's strange how things work. Sometimes you can look a lot better doing something, but it doesn't work. You might look a little strange, but it works. Now, he doesn't look like the same hitter to me that he looked last year from the left side.
Hit a career best 334 last year. And yeah, exactly 100 points lower at the start of play tonight. The numbers on Donnie Wall appearing in his 17th game. Had problems loosening up in the bullpen earlier this week, and that was cause for concern for the Mets. Pop-up handled by Agbayani in left. 2 away. Perhaps as a reaction to Wall having trouble loosening up, the Mets went out and acquired a right-handed reliever from the Indians. They traded for Justin Spire, the son of ex-big league shortstop Chris, who's currently the third base coach down with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And then Donnie Wall was okay. They discovered they did not have to put him on the disabled list. Donnie said he felt fine, and Spire was sent down to AAA. Well, that was one of those deals they made just as a precautionary measure should Wall become unavailable.
Boy, that's one thing in this day and age. Most clubs always feel they do not have enough pitching. You've got to have it backed up at AAA in case a rash of injuries hit. They had a right-hander in the minor leagues that they were counting on, Nerio Rodriguez, who has been around the major leagues both with Baltimore and with the Toronto Blue Jays, but he got hurt in spring training, had a leg injury, and they finally, I think they released him finally.
John Mabry grounds the first. Good play by Tonzile. He does it himself. No further damage after the home run to lead off the inning. We go to the bottom of the 8th as Shea, 11-3 Mets. Thursday Night Baseball on Fox Family has been brought to you by Lotrimin AF, the #1 recommendation of doctors, and by Nissan, driven. Always fireworks in New York over Manhattan. There's always some kind of a parade or some kind of a celebration going on. Maybe they're celebrating 11 runs for the Mets tonight. Another pitching change for the Marlins. They're on their 5th of the night. Left-hander Armando Almanza takes over in the bottom of the 8th.
Boy, Major League clubs sign these guys for the size and by the pound. Here's another big one, 6'3", 220 pounds. Had an excellent year last year for the Marlins, 4-2 in 67 appearances. He's off to an even better start this year. Numbers are excellent. Came over from the Cardinal organization with Looper in that Edgar Renteria deal. We're getting a look at the entire pitching staff, I think, especially the bullpen.
A complete profiling tonight. 5 pitchers for Florida. So far, just 2 for the Mets. It all started with the 7 strong innings by Kevin Appier. 2 runs on 4 hits. He struck out 10, a season high, did not walk a batter, and retired the last 13 he faced. Really set the tone for New York tonight. The offense has been a bonus. Joe McEwing will have his first plate appearance. He came on defensively last half inning in place of Robin Ventura. So McEwing, Shinjo, and Zeal here in the 8th. Super Joe McEwing, named as such because of his versatility. Rookie season last year with the Cardinals, played everywhere. The ball and no strikes from Almanza.
Good guy to have on your ball club. First of all, he plays with such enthusiasm, stays ready, and when you're putting a bench together in the National League, you better have somebody that's versatile enough who can play in the middle of your infield and also play some outfield if you need it. And you're right, Matt, he can play anywhere. In fact, in one game I saw him play third base, second base, and center field in the same game. You don't normally find that. In fact, I think he even played a little short in that game. got to be known as Little Mac over with the Big Mac.
That's right. Everything but pitch and catch, and in a pinch, he could probably do that for you too.
You know, if you asked him, he would say, sure, whatever you need. Boy, this is a good guy in the club.
Takes a strike. And bears an amazing facial resemblance to 40-something rocker Huey Lewis.
He does, doesn't he?
He really does. You know, I've argued with people about that. I got a lot of time on my hands, this is true. But I found a lot of people that disagree with me. Leading things off here in the bottom of the 8th with his Mets comfortably in front.
Well,
Bobby Valentine hoping that his Mets can really turn the corner with this performance tonight. Take a look at what they've done. Tonight batting at .303, scoring 11 runs. A far cry from what they've done on average at home this year in 21 games. Shea Stadium. Unbelievable. Creative juices are just whirling in the truck tonight. 1-2 pitch home is fouled away.
well, I wanted to give you a little connection now between Huey Lewis and Joe McEwing. They both went to school in New Jersey. Huey Lewis went to Lawrenceville School. Joe McEwing went to Morris Community College.
You're unbelievable.
How about that?
That's, you know what, that is impressive. There's nobody that knows the game of baseball better than Jeff Torborg, and you've just taken like 6 steps up in the book with the rocker reference right there. That's a pitch in the dirt, and it's 2-2.
I have a lot of time on my hands, too.
I was going to say. We were talking earlier about Charles Johnson and that contractual decision that he has to make based on whether or not the Marlins can secure the funding for a new stadium. At the end of the season, he can walk away from the remaining 4 years of that deal and take his services elsewhere. They're highly coveted. Ground ball chance for third baseman Mike Lowell, and one away. I would imagine, though, Charles Johnson being a Florida native, a University of Miami guy, I would guess his heart wants to stay with the Marlins.
Oh, I would think so. Last year he had an opportunity after finishing up the season so strongly. The first half at Baltimore, the second half with the White Sox. He had a choice of where he wanted to go, several different places, and he selected the Marlins to go back to them. Of course, that's where he began his career. I would suggest that he probably would try to see what the ball club will do, where it will go. They've got a terrific owner. John Henry is really well liked in this game, well respected.
Here's Shinjo now. Well, Charles Johnson was traded in the '98 season, and that was the season that the Marlins were the defending World Series champs. Finished 52 games back that year. The worst record by a defending Major League champ ever. And things were rough for the remaining couple of years until the Marlins have certainly started the rebuilding process. Finished just a couple of games under 500 last year, and they're continuing to climb this season. They won it all in '97 with a 92-70 record. Here are the numbers we're talking about. Things really went south for a couple of years in '98 and '99. They reacquired Charles Johnson, their backstop in '97, and they're starting to build back up again here this year. Big swing and a miss from Shinjo.
Matt, we were talking in our open about this ball club being one that can be contending. This game is no indicator of the way this club can play. Obviously, they've got young, talented pitchers. There are going to be some days that they do not throw the way they should throw, or there's inexperience takes its toll, or the elements hurt their defense.
Shinjo with a ball well hit to right. That's going to chase John Mabry at the track. He makes the grab.
But this ball club is a very solid team. It is coming. You look around, they've got good shortstop, second baseman combination. They got Lowell at third base to give you the pop on the corner. Cliff Floyd in left field is a tremendous athlete. Center field is well covered, obviously, by Preston Wilson. great catcher behind the plate. Now the young pitchers are coming. Who knows? We said it earlier. If a club this young makes it to August still within range of contention, watch out. They'll start to believe in themselves if they don't already.
And last year's Oakland A's a good example of that. Here's Todd Zeile now with 2 gone. As it was said about the Oakland club last year, too young to know that they shouldn't be here. And as you mentioned, they start believing in themselves, and look out incumbents. The incumbents have scuffled out of the gate this year, as we talked about in the open. The Braves and Mets are looking up at teams like the Phillies and Marlins all of a sudden.
Well, Larry Bowa has made the Phillies believe that they can win. And look what the manager in Milwaukee's doing. I mean, when you think of Davey Lopes' career, he was nothing but a winner everywhere he went. And he's a winner in Milwaukee. He's made those guys believe. Those are 2 hard-nosed former players in Bowa and Davey.
2-1 to Todd Zeile. Yeah, you could have gotten some nice preseason odds on teams like the Phillies in particular, coming off a 65-win campaign last year. And again, as we mentioned in the open, everybody looking up at Philadelphia at the start of play in the National League East. Well, they've gotten miracles in the past. The pace they're on this year would set them with 67 wins at the end of the season. That's not going to get you into the playoffs, as we certainly know. Zeile way out in front, a swing and a miss. A 1-2-3, bottom of the 8th, authored by the left-hander Armando Almanza. Last licks for the Fish, down by 8. Top of the 9th inning, and the Marlins are in need of a miracle here tonight, down by 8. We go to the top of the 9th as Cliff Floyd leads it off. They do have the heart of the order. Floyd, Wilson, and Lowell. It's been all New York tonight. Marlins were the first to score. They got 2 in the top of the 2nd. The Mets countered and went ahead in the 3rd with a 3-run frame and have not looked back since. Big Cliff Floyd's 1 for 3 with a stolen base tonight. Donnie Wall working in his 2nd consecutive inning in relief of Kevin Appier. Mets starter was brilliant tonight, looking to snap out of a 5-game losing streak. 0-2 to Floyd. We were talking about the Marlins' improved offensive attack last half inning. Keeping this guy healthy is the key. Floyd's been on the DL 6 times in 7 years. If they could have him for a full season, he might be able to better his season best home run total. He hit 22 last year. That's his tops in 7 years.
He had a terrible collision here with Todd Hundley years ago where he broke his wrist in several places on a play at first base. It's amazing that he's come back as far as he has, but this is a very talented young player.
A swing and a miss, strike 3. 1 gone for Donnie Wall.
Center fielder, number 44.
Let's take you back to our Lotriman great feat of the game tonight. It came with Robin Ventura at the plate, a hanging breaking ball that Robin hammered into the corner. It drove in 2. It was a part of a 4-run 5th. At that point, it was wide open for the Mets. 4 in the 5th, 4 in the 6th inning. That's all Kevin Appier and company have needed on the mound, I should say so. 1 gone for Preston Wilson, who takes a strike. Wilson lines into the corner. A 1-out double for Preston Wilson here in the Marlin 9th.
The third baseman, number 19, Mike Lowe.
You know, I'm curious if Preston Wilson is going to be around here tomorrow, Jeff, when Mookie Wilson, his stepfather, and when Preston's mom have a press conference to announce their release of a CD. Mookie and Rosa's Gospel Collection will be released for the listening public tomorrow. They wrote all 9 tracks on the CD, took 2 years to complete it. And in fact, we're being told that yes, Preston will be on hand for that press conference tomorrow. That's kind of neat. You know, Mookie's got to have something to do in the offseason.
I'm sure they planned it, that they did it while they were in town. That's interesting.
I guess Mookie Wilson's been keeping himself busy writing gospel songs for a while. Perhaps that began in 1986 when a certain bounding ball went through Billy Buckner.
And he realized he was getting a little help from a higher power.
That's right. It's a good time to start writing songs. You know, Preston was actually in the ballpark when that happened. And of course, when you grow up in a household of a major league ball player, especially a beloved one like Mookie Wilson, you're going to be a fan at an early age. It's grounded out to Ordonez, who takes care of Lowell. And the Fish are down to their final out tonight.
The catcher, number 23, Charles Johnson.
Here's Charles Johnson now with 2 down. First pick in Marlin draft history in 1992. Coming after that Olympic team season. We don't know when his pet dog Shaq came into the picture.
Well, I got some fun facts for you. You know why he started catching? He was raised in Fort Pierce, Florida. His father was a friend of John Roseboro's, a former great Dodger catcher, and Charles became a catcher. His father worked hard with him, developing his skills as a receiver, and I'm not so sure that Charles really ever knew Johnny Roseboro. And Johnny Roseboro was my mentor with the Dodgers, and for a number of years a tremendous receiver. But it's kind of a small world, you know, when you think about the Dodgers training in Vero Beach was right next door to Fort Pierce.
Well, that was likely an influence before Charles was even aware.
Yes, I'm sure.
1-1 pitch to Johnson, misses outside.
That's why I thought he was really going to like the Dodgers situation, but he never seemed to be comfortable there with the Dodgers at the time he was there.
We go to the opposite coast, especially considering he's a native Floridian, University of Miami star.
Well, I think also the fact that he was replacing quite possibly the best offensive catcher that ever played this game in Piazza, who was a fan favorite there.
Yeah.
That made it tough.
Yeah, that's a tough seat. Fans on their feet looking for the final strike of the night behind Donnie Wall, and there it is, a big swing and a miss. And this one's put to bed. The Mets really respond in opening a homestand, the first of 4 this series with their interdivision rivals, and the first of their meetings this season. It was all Mets tonight. New York wins it 11-3. Join us this weekend for FX Baseball Saturday night when the Cincinnati Reds host the St. Louis Cardinals. Game time is 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. Thursday Night Baseball returns next week on Fox Family. You'll see Red Sox and Blue Jays with the telecast beginning at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Coming up next on Fox Family, on the East Coast, scariest places on Earth, and on the West Coast, 2 of a kind. For my partner Jeff Torborg and for Brianne Leary, I'm Matt Vasgersian. Thanks for tuning us in from Shea Stadium tonight, where the Mets have won at 11-3. You've been watching Thursday Night Baseball on Fox Family. See you next time.